T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Coolest reptile podcast in the world. Welcome to Trap Talk Reptile Podcast, episode 428. I'm your boy MJ. What is good? Happy holidays to everyone out there. Hope everyone's having a great holiday week. If this is your first time tapping in, please do me a favor. If you're into keeping reptiles, either breeding, admiring overall pets, whatever, man, this is the podcast to be a part of. So smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, select all. You'll be on top of every single podcast I drop here on this channel. As of now, I drop 3 podcasts every week. I do not miss Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays. So by hitting that notification bell, you will not miss any of the podcasts I drop here. You can also listen to Trap Talk Reptile Podcast on all the major audio platforms such as Buzzsprout, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, all the major ones. So listen, wherever you listen to this podcast, thank you so much. Appreciate it so much. And your guys' support means a lot. Even all the viewers that don't choose to subscribe, you guys, thank you. You guys are here. The numbers don't lie. You guys are listening. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to get more out of what you see out of every episode, if you want to tap in and be a part of the Trap Talk Patreon family and Discord and just network yourself with some of the right people doing the right things and just have longevity a part of their name, then go down to the very first link you see in the description below. Click on it. Join the Trap Talk Patreon family. As soon as you join the Trap Talk Patreon family, you'll get a link to the Discord that will tap you in with over 185 trappers. We also have an Instagram group chat that goes crazy 24/7. So many great things coming from the Patreon family. So thank you so much, and big exclusive type deal content coming 2024. Be ready. Giving you a fair warning right now. Patreon members, first dibs on all that. It's going to go down. Cannot wait. Shout out to tonight's sponsor. Okay. Go figure. Yep. Tonight's sponsor is Rare Genetic Inc. That's right. Future has arrived to your hobby. This is great, man. Ball Python game. If you got sheds, you got questions, turn them in. RGI. Head over to Rare Genetic Inc. on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe to their YouTube channel. All right. Be a part of their every Wednesday show that they have. They give you updates and whatnot. But yes, shout out to Ben, Dr. Ben. All right. And shout out to Shawn, who we're going to be meeting tonight. It's going to be epic. But also go to raregeneticinc.com for updates as well and to place your order. Also, tonight's episode is brought to you by Clutch. If you're looking to be organized, you want to be ahead of the game, if you want to look like you're legit, Clutch will help you do all of that. All right. Be a part of it. New and up and coming app that has done great things in the last year. So be a part of it, especially if you are somebody who's just now building a collection. This is one way to stay organized. Really awesome features. Don't miss it. Follow Clutch on Instagram to be updated on things. And a shout out to the entire Clutch team. Justin, of course, Sebastian, Summer, the entire Clutch team. You guys are awesome. Big things coming from Clutch. That's a fact. Last but not least, shout out to Miguel Garcia from Always Evolving Pythons. Big dog doing big things nonstop. Heavy hitter, that's for damn sure. So please, if you don't, for whatever reason, follow my man on Instagram. Please do now. Always Evolving Pythons. Also, make sure you follow his Morph market as well. Be on top of that product. That AEP heat is no joke. You don't want to sleep on his production. That's a fact. And he has a late season, so he's just now going to be putting out stuff. So be ready. Go follow, be on top of all that, and also subscribe to Miguel's YouTube channel, Always Evolving Pythons. Shout out to my big dog, man. Big things. Got to say, shout out to the early birds in the chats. I see you guys. You guys are my heart. If you're in the live chats tonight and you're excited, but you have an important topic or question, or if you just want to support tonight's episode, do not be shy with the super chats. Drop the super chats, and we're going to get things popping tonight, man. You want to know how? Because look who my co-host is tonight. These two guys, Justin Kobylka and no stranger. I mean, this guy's, Bill, am I wearing you out? I mean, how do you feel?
Dude, I'm exhausted, man. I'm exhausted. Justin, how you doing, man?
Good. No one said you'd be on, man. This is not cool.
I was going to say the same thing about Shawn Christian, but
Don't let anyone on this show now. Yeah.
Justin's the one that should be tired from all of his travels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
a little bit of that.
do you sleep good, Justin? Serious question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's a blessing.
Hey, guess where Justin's live from, Bill?
Let me look in the back on our boy's place, Marshon's Morph.
No.
Let me look again.
It's kind of related. I mean, as far as
okay. His car room.
Yes, his new garage.
Yeah.
His garage office.
Yes. Well, maybe he'll flip the camera around.
I mean, can you see your cards
It's
where
like
you're
a
at?
whole monitor here. Yeah, I
That's
can see
monitor.
him, but I can't flip the camera around easily, unfortunately.
No, you have a good shot.
Yeah.
Don't mess with it. Let's leave that alone. But
Mhm.
Bill, I don't know about you. I can't wait to go back to Justin's. We need to plan that pretty soon. Because I'm getting FOMO of not seeing that garage. I don't know about you, Bill, but
that was a great weekend. Epic weekend.
You guys are welcome.
yeah.
We appreciate it.
So first and foremost, since I just saw Bill less than 48 hours ago, how you doing, Justin? What's going on? How's everything going? We're at the end of the year. How do you feel?
I feel good. I'm ready to put an end on this year. I'm excited about next year. I have high hopes for it, and I'm ready.
As far as RGI goes, I mean, you've been working real close with them all year. How do you feel about having Shawn and Ben on tonight? You have any thing to let the viewers know what to look forward to?
Yeah, I love these guys. Honestly, we've been working together since Ben reached out to me and he wanted to come over and just like walk through my room and collect all my sheds one day. And like I was not sure this was going to go anywhere, but like look at how far they've come. And I'm just super excited. Some really cool stuff on the horizon. Then talking to them, so I can't wait to kind of like quiz them down here on the show and get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and to think we're still in the beginning stage of so many things too. Like this is just like the root of everything. And the biggest talk I will say as far as what relates to RGI all year is, of course, the ball pythons, which why you're here, Justin, you know what I mean? You're kind of representing the ball python family. And then, of course, the chondros, which there's a lot of unanswered questions, maybe, Bill, or a few, maybe. I don't know. How do you feel overall tonight representing the chondro community, Bill? But we have RGI questions that you've had all year. Let's hear about that.
Well, let me first say, MJ, you have been bringing the heat with the guests like the last few weeks. Maxwell, Kobylka on tonight. You got the RGI guys with some really right off the press news that we're going to get into. And to answer your question, I cheated a little bit because I listened to Ben's weekly announcement on his channel last night, and so I cheated a little bit. I know a little bit about what he's going to be presenting, but we've got a lot more time than 30 minutes, and so I hope we can dig into a lot deeper of what he kind of went over last night.
Yep, totally. And I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, guys, in the live chats, be active, be ready to go because it's going to be one hell of a show. But you guys ready to get things going? I am. I don't know about you guys, but you guys ready or what?
Do it.
All right, let's do it. Guys, you know what I'm about to say. Do what you got to do to get your mind right. Do what you got to do to stay hydrated. Episode 428, RGI review, the yearly review coming at you right now. Let's go. Choo! You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes,
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
And we're live, episode 428. We have RGI, the whole team of RGI right here. Well, not the whole team, but the two big head dogs right here, Shawn and Dr. Ben in the building. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey.
Hey guys, what's up?
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you
Yes,
guys
you too.
too. Happy holidays, all that good stuff. MJ, I took your advice. Staying hydrated. Bill, I saw you sipping wine on one of the last podcasts with MJ, and I thought, you know what? See, right there.
Certainly not this one.
That's right.
Small glass.
I
too.
figured, why not get a beer if I'm going to be here for a while, right?
Oh my gosh, man. So listen, first and foremost, Shawn, welcome to Trap Talk. Your first time here. It's a pleasure to actually have your face, meet all the trappers and all the viewers out there. I always think it's awesome when somebody who's more behind the scenes decides to kind of pop up and introduce themselves, but there's so much more than just you kind of being the financing support behind RGI. You're a true reptile lover. You have quite the history. So if you want to just kind of just break down your resume of what relates you to reptiles and what kind of led to today, if you don't mind, briefly to everyone out there.
I mean, this could be a really long story, or it could be, you know, I give you the highlights and then you guys just ask some questions.
You own tonight's episode, so it's your call.
I'll tell you what. I started out just like a lot of us, you know. I was into reptiles as a kid. I'm 53 now, so one of my earliest memories is being 6 or 7 years old. I was born in South Florida, and I remember seeing my first baby corn snake in the bottom of a palmetto bush, and I've been fascinated with them ever since. And I actually started an import business when I was 18, so we're going on almost 30 years ago. Wow. I used to get the Bushmaster lists, and I would import all kinds of stuff. This is back before mutations and ball pythons ever existed, really. And obviously they existed, but nobody knew what they were. I would import ball pythons, all kinds of lizards, and put them in the back of my 1989 Ford Probe and drive them all over Texas, Louisiana, and New Mexico, and drive up to pet stores that I knew sold reptiles and would sell reptiles. And I've always kept lots and lots of them. And for a long time, I had a cutting edge collection of carpet pythons, which is how Bill and I met.
Right.
I think Bill could tell you better than me, but I think you started with carpet pythons, right? Before you became a chondro guy.
Yes, I definitely had carpets before chondros. And it was a great, I don't know, gateway animal and to me getting into chondros. And I still keep carpets to this day. But I got my first carpets from you, and it was just great experience.
I forgot about that actually until you just said that. You're right. I
first one from you. Absolutely. You brought him over, and our mutual friend at the time, Tony Hurt, who was my original mentor, who we have re-met back at I think maybe my party this last time, right? Did you say?
I haven't seen Tony in at least 10 to 12 years. So that was the first time I'd seen him in well over a decade. Yeah. Anyway, so you and I worked a few tables together. 12
in ARBC. Yeah.
Whoa, dude! I didn't know this was all like fucking. You guys are this tight. Like, what the fuck?
We both live in Dallas. We only live about 45 minutes from each other. So we've been friends for a long time.
It was like 2010 days, right? 2010, 2011, right?
Yeah.
Or earlier.
A little thinner than that. Yeah, probably 2007, 2008, right in there. And then Ben and I have been friends for just as long in person, but probably longer over the internet. We met on the Morelia Python forums back in the day when carpet pythons, was the place in the world where people would go to learn about carpet pythons and chondros in a lot of ways. Yep. That's when the friendship started with Ben, and things have just gone on from there. I haven't bred carpet pythons in years, but I still have probably 60 in my snake room, along with, a few dozen ball pythons. Who doesn't? And man, I'm just a keeper and a hobbyist now. I haven't bred in closer to a decade than not. It's been 7 or 8 years, and that's only because my life changed. I got really busy with work. I built a big house out on a farm, and I'm loving life right now. And then here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tripping out because everything has, I had a good reason of asking the question I just asked, because I think it's important for people to know the face behind any kind of brand, especially if it's a brand like RGI. RGI is blowing up, man. Big things to come with RGI, but we have a legit animal lover who was actually one of us. Like, dude, you're one of us, which is awesome. You know what I mean? But I'm tripping about you and Bill, because Bill's he's my big bro, man, and he's a big mentor of mine. And for him to, introduce somebody to me, or just for him to know somebody that goes back to what 2010 or before, it's kind of a trip. And I don't want to get on this topic too thick, but what happened to carpet pythons, you would say? Because I feel like they were super popular at a certain point, and now they're not. Anyone want to answer that real quick? Maybe Bill or Shawn or even Ben.
No, they're still very popular.
No, they're
Absolutely.
not as much though. Like, come on, I run a podcast. I know this. Like, it's not like it's just something's missing. I feel like, I don't know.
I think some people are disinterested in them, or became disinterested because the hybridization issue became a really big sort of divider. Imagine if ball pythons had several different subspecies, and you had to cross the mutations, or the subspecies rather, to make the 4 and 5 mutation animals that we see today, sometimes more. And so there's this really big sort of crevice between the guys who are willing to hybridize all of the mutations to just create cool pet animals in the hobby. And I'm one of those guys, by the way. I'm not a purist by any means, although I do love that side of the hobby because I've been around it for so long. And then there are the purist guys who will not do it. They don't like the fact that other people do it. And I understand they have valid points too. And anytime you have two different, sides of an argument, and they're constantly moving the goalposts in the middle, trying to figure out where that hobby should be, people, they get disinterested, they get tired. And can you guys still hear me? Sorry, I know I time out a little bit. We're having a bad rainstorm here. And I know that I've chimed in a few times on some forums where I just say, guys, this is kind of why I stopped breeding. Tired of the arguing. We're all just here because it's a hobby, and we're having a good time, and we should be enjoying the animals, whether they're purebred or not. And I think that's where it started. I think a lot of the industry, that's where a lot of those problems began. Is people are different. They decide what they like. They decide whether it's pure or hybrid or whatever, and they can't agree on, hey, let's just all enjoy doing what we do, whether it's just keeping them as a pet or having 150 in your room that you're breeding. It just varies.
Well, Justin, you've been around for a long time, man, and that there had to be there's people now who kind of stick their nose up in the air towards ball python breeders, but that must have been going on for years, you would say, right? There's always people who always thought doing the morph thing wasn't like ideal and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, I started when ball pythons were considered trash, just about. They slowly came around to them, and I think still, there's a disconnect when people think that the ball pythons, that's for the masses and not for the purists, and not for the people who are really serious about snakes. They want to get a real man snake. I get that, but it's just that's just people, and there's more of us than you guys. So
For sure, there are. Well said.
Oh my God, drop the mic. All right. Well, with that being said, Justin, okay, let's talk about goalposts kind of being moved. There was definitely some talk in the background as far as like the how close RGI and Justin were working, Canova were working, and especially when the DG announcement came out, and wondering, does Justin know more than other people and all sorts of stuff. And I just kind of want to ask you, Justin, where are you at with how you felt things went with RGI this year? Because you have been working really closely with them. And what do you have for everyone out there as far as what you think how the year went with RGI?
I think I pretty much have the same kind of layman's look at it that most people have, except for I just hear, kind of behind the scenes as we're discussing these different things, maybe before the public knows about them. But I would just say, like, I've been really impressed with you guys, especially from the point of view. I just feel like you're good people that are just trying to figure it out. You always worry that maybe behind the scenes somebody is just like they're making it up on the fly and they're running by the seat of your pants. But I always, from the moment I met you, Ben, I realized, like, here's a guy who really cares about the science of it, and he doesn't necessarily I feel like you're not so quick to say something unless you really believe it, but also you're not going to be the kind of person who is afraid to say, hey, we're figuring out something new and we're learning together. Like, to me, that's the biggest part that makes someone trustworthy is the willingness to say, hey, we're learning, and I'm just gonna keep giving you information. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. We're gonna learn together. And that just fosters a lot of trust, which I think it makes you guys the perfect people for this.
100%.
Yep. And I want to capitalize on that because I've met Ben, and Ben's a very welcoming guy. Like, he just, you know, you're a very calm individual, but you have a lot to say too at the same time. But I feel like you putting your face at the shows and connecting with people was the biggest push behind RGI, because it's one thing like, okay, cool, you use Justin's connection to kind of be on people's platforms, but you're actually hitting the pavement too. And I think that's a huge difference with any brand in an industry, is like you actually going to these shows, connecting with people, jumping on podcasts, because you do, Ben. I see you. You're everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like that's what it needs to be done. You know, on top of all the work that you guys are doing, this is a big part of the piece too, talking about it and actually informing people, especially because, like, you know, like you said, people are going to want to think what they want to think, you know, but when you are physically showing up to shows, you're like, I got nothing to hide, and I'm here to share everything with everyone, and this is what's going on, you know. But let me ask you, Shawn, you know, you kind of being behind the scenes and, you know, tapping in and listening here and there, what's your overall feeling so far of how 2023 went with RGI?
I mean, look, it was the first year, our very first, you know, year closed out in October. We did not hit our very lofty sales goal, but I didn't think we would. But as the business manager, I'm very happy with where we are. We started with 6 gene tests. We're going to close out this year with probably somewhere north of 30, which is for us fantastic. That has everything to do with everybody supporting us. You know, along the lines of what Justin was saying, is I think one of the reasons people have been so kind to us is we've just been really honest with everybody. We tell everybody up front what we think we're dealing with and what might or might not work. You know, you're going to learn some news tonight that's, you know, us just being upfront and honest, what we think is going to happen with a few things. But overall, we're a lot of the chat rooms, forums, things like that. A year ago, there were an awful lot of people, oh, these guys are full of shit. It's a money grab. There's not as much of that chatter anymore, because a lot of people have had their tests done, and you know what, these animals are proving out, and a lot of other YouTubers are out there saying, hey, got this stuff tested, here's the clutch, here's the proof. And you know, we're putting in the work. We're not always right, but we're putting in the work, and everybody's starting to see the fruits of that work, and that's fantastic. And that's, I think, what makes me the happiest about this first year is we've already generally been accepted as an actual, you know, scientific force in the community, something that we haven't had before, and it's super cool. It's really, really great to be a part of it.
And Ben, you know, keeping it on ball pythons here, you know, you were the forefront man as far as like answering a lot of people's questions and just kind of being there for as many people as you can. But how did you feel dealing with certain pushback at times with the certain ball python updates wanting to be at, you know, basically at demand sometimes? I don't know. I mean, did you feel like you dealt with it pretty well? And then overall, how'd you feel about this year?
Well, first of all, I felt very, very happy and grateful about this year. Like Shawn said, you know, so much support from so many people. It's been really great. And going back to what Justin said earlier, when I asked to come and hang out at his place and pull sheds all day, you can ask him. It was like 6 hours of pulling sheds. I think we did take a break to eat lunch, but I was just going and going. And then I looked up at one point, and Justin's got his coat on, his shoes on, you know, he's all, you know, ready to go out the door. Yeah. He's kind of like, you know, tapping his foot. I was like, oh, it's probably 5 now, huh? So time to go. But yeah, I mean, that was, you know, he let me and Kevin, who helps me with my animals here, let us just out, you know, cold call out of the blue. I've got animals from Justin in the past, but it was like, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, a couple animals. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, let me come in and get sheds. We've had people send dozens and sometimes even hundreds of sheds. I had a colubrid breeder that, you know, as soon as we started doing sex determination, he sent me, I think it was between 500 and 600 sheds within the first like 6 months. And he, you know, paid to have them all sex tested. He was really excited. And, you know, there's just so many people that have helped, you know, keep this idea going, because there's times when I've been discouraged, or Shawn's been discouraged or worried, and Shawn's had to worry about the money. I worry about the science working and being correct, and Shawn worries about the money and if we're going to go out of business. And right. You know, people supporting and being excited and letting us know when they, you know, prove something out that we tested, you know, that all has kept us going. And I'm a pretty, I don't know, obsessed and hard nosed about if there's something I want to do, I just keep going and going and going. And thankfully Shawn too took a lot of risk. He had faith in my potential abilities to make some of this happen, you know, back in 2011 when I just got my PhD, and, you know, we kept talking. And so it's been, you know, a really big build, but it's been wonderful. And as far as what you're asking about, you know, interacting with customers,
Right.
I definitely understand the frustration. A lot of the time I probably felt just as gut wrenched as they did, that things took so long, or like with poor Bill talking to me all the time about, and many other green tree python breeders, why can't I get sex determination results? And, you know, it's been, those have been the hardest times, like when I'll lose sleep and I'll, you know, be sad or depressed. It's because I can't get results to people quickly, or I can't even do a test at all with the green tree python.
You want to know one thing? Want to know one thing I didn't hear though at all from not one person is that I didn't get a refund. Everyone that I know got a refund. So I mean that's legit. And even though we want answers.
Well, and we also told all of them that once we have a working test, we'll do it, and, you know, it'll be for free at that point, whenever that is. But right, as we'll talk about tonight, that's going to be more complicated than we thought. But right, yeah, if we can get to where we can do a single shed test, I have all of those sheds in a specific spot, and we'll run through them and get all those results. But it's looking like it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, you know, I have a quick question since we're on the discussion of ball python sheds. You know, just like any kind of testing that I've done, which is mainly just nido testing. I know that there's like, Bill, there's like that rule of 3, right? You need like 3 nido tests. Like if you get something in, if you really want to know that it's clean, you get like 3 tests done, right, Bill? Something like that.
I think that's what they'll tell you over a 12-month period to, you know, guarantee that you're 90% or plus 90% free of nido.
Because there's false negatives and positives, where like there could be like, you know, tests that could just fluctuate either positive or negative. But how's that work with proving out a morph? Like what are the chances of that test not being correct? Like what if it is actually 100% het, but then for whatever reason the test doesn't catch it? Like what's the chances of that? I'm curious.
So the biggest thing that's in our favor for the testing that we do is, so a lot of people, when they hear of any kind of PCR test or genetic test, they're going to think of COVID, or like with snake breeders, they'll think of nido. Right. So both of those things, you're taking a bunch of DNA from a whole bunch of cells that have one set of DNA, and you're trying to look for DNA or RNA from a virus. So you might have thousands of cells, but only 1 or 2 copies of the virus or bacteria or whatever you're testing for. In our case, we take that cell sample, and every single cell, if it's a het, every single cell has a copy of that DNA. So if there's 10,000 cells, there's 10,000 copies. So it's a very different kind of a test that has a much lower fail rate. It's a much easier test to be correct on. And so our rates, and not only with, you know, shed testing and reptiles, this is across, you know, many different species. There's thousands and thousands of similar tests that they use for mice when they do, you know, genetic work in mice and rats and in humans, all that stuff. You're looking at well over 99.5%, most of the time over 99.99%, that if it's a test that's been run a bunch of times. So it's very, very clean and accurate.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to switch gears. Bill, frustration amongst the community of chondro keepers in regards to thinking they could get these sex sheds tested at one point. There's a big hype, but then it didn't follow through. And this was a lot of earlier than the year. Then obviously it died down, but obviously people are still talking in the background. But what do you have for RGI as far as any questions go?
Yeah, and we could talk about this, and I hope we will talk about it a lot tonight. But before we do, I just need to say, Tuesday, MJ, I had the trap T-shirt on, you know, repping the Trap Talk. Tonight, I was really torn, man. Do I wear my Canova T-shirt or do I wear my RGI T-shirt? And I went with the RGI T-shirt because I'm going to try to get on Shawn and Ben's good side for shed testing going forward. So just to throw that out there. But these guys can tell you, and as well as I can, I think the most frustrating part for the green tree guys were because some of us, not a lot of us, but some of us you guys had done the shed testing for us. And it was the best thing for us since sliced bread. And it was incredibly accurate. I don't know the numbers, but Ben, I would say you ran at least probably 50 samples for me over maybe a 2-year period. And every one that I could go back and, either sex myself via shed, adult shed or probe, or have other people sex it. It was 100% accurate. Never found an animal that you told me was one sex turned out to be another. Well, I think the frustrating thing for us was like, okay, you gave us something and then you took it away.
Indian giver.
So that, and I know you'll go into why that happened. For a long time, I didn't know why. That had happened. And so once I found out why, then I think I was more at peace with it, and just, okay, it just isn't ready to happen. And I think you'll go into this more later. Theoretically, it can happen.
Yeah, I hope that there's going to be a way. I guess maybe it would be good to give the news, I just learned, actually, I've heard people allude to this at Tinley. There were some academic researchers there that do reptile sex chromosome research. And those of you that have read some reptile genetics papers would recognize their names. But anyway, on Tuesday, Dr. Warren Booth, I was on another podcast, the Reptile Gumbo podcast with we had 4 doctors on there, doctor episode.
How do you feel about that, Bill?
Yeah.
I love it. I wasn't one of them, but I absolutely love it.
And so Dr. Warren Booth was on there, and he said that I was explaining on there, similar question. Someone asked about the green trees, and I said, what happens is with the single shed test, I keep designing a test, and I'll try it out on 5 and it'll work. I'll try it out on 10, it'll work. And I'll try it out on 30 or 40 or 50, and then it doesn't work. I can't have a test that's not going to be over 99% accurate, or we're going to have problems,
Ben, what's exactly not working though? Like, what is it like that's not working?
So the way I'll validate a test is I'll have people like Bill send me, and his are part of my known males and females. So the very first thing I'll do is I'll design the test that I think could work. And then I'll take samples from people like Bill and other green tree python keepers that I know and trust that they're going to give me sheds from animals they know for sure what the sex is. So right. I have, 100 sheds from green trees that I am 100% confident that these sheds came from males, these sheds came from females. And so I'll pull, 3 males, 3 females, and I'll run them. It looks good. It gives me the correct results. It matches the expected. And then I'll pull 20. And sometimes they've even gone that far with 20. Okay, great. This is awesome. I've got a test that's going to work. And then I run another 60, and then all of a sudden there's 5 of them that aren't correct. And so I know that test is not going to be correct at a high enough percentage to be able to offer it to people. And so that happened 5, 6, 7 times.
Over the span of a couple of years. It's happened many times now.
Yeah, it's been very frustrating. Well, I was talking on that other show, and I said, and Warren, I know you've looked at these sex chromosomes and thinking about developing tests and things like that. Anything, any updates from you? And he said, well, actually, I can't go into very much detail, but there's something very weird about Morelia sex chromosomes that's different from the other pythons. There's something very different with how what genetically is going on. It is genetically sex determined, so it's not like it's temperature dependent or something like that. It's still genetic and it's still in the DNA, but their sex chromosomes are not like any other python. So carpet pythons, green tree pythons, there's something very, very different that's happened, and it makes it so he said in the episode, and I don't know the data, I haven't seen the data, I don't know the details, but he said that it may be
won't.
What's that?
We likely won't until the paper's published.
Yeah, until the paper comes out. Yeah, so he said it's likely that we won't ever have a marker that would work across, all green trees or all carpet pythons. It may be a different enough mode. If you look into modes of genetic sex determination, there's sometimes where they have like 5 or 6 X chromosomes and 5 or 6 Y chromosomes, and you have to have this combination of this or that to be able to get a male or a female. It's very complicated in some species.
Right.
I haven't seen that in any reptile species that I've looked at personally.
Is this just green tree pythons for what you know, or is this going to be like this multiple species possibly?
He said Morelia, so
all Morelia,
that
so
genus. So, yeah, carpet, at least carpets and green trees are going to be more complicated. I'm still optimistic.
Are you surprised? Green trees more complicated. Are you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
the interesting thing is you can definitely breed a carpet to a ball python and get viable offspring, so I don't know. It's very strange, but
yeah,
it seems to be the case. I've heard that from 2 different sex chromosome evolutionary biologists, kind of people that have studied reptile sex chromosomes. So I'm pretty sure it's true. And from my experience, that makes good sense why I've been bashing my head against the wall for so long.
So Ben, I think you've done a great job explaining to people like why you can't do a single gene sex shed analysis on green trees, and maybe it'll never happen. But tell us why you could. How is it different what you did, like when you sexed for me and John Irby and a handful of other people, back several years ago? What was different then?
So what I was doing then, first of all, I had a full-time job working for a pharmaceutical company, and I had more free time to be able to play with things. And so Shawn and I, from the very beginning, that's why we wanted to start this business, because we were carpet python keepers and have kept green trees and know lots of green tree python keepers, and we knew that would be probably the most beneficial test for python keepers in general, would be to be able to sex green trees, right out of the egg.
You bet.
So what I did was we actually spent a pretty good chunk of money. We did some RAD-seq sequencing, and we were able to find spots in the genome of males that were not present in females. Essentially, we were looking for a difference between male DNA and female DNA. And so I knew a hot spot where it certainly seemed to be there were markers for male, that were just in males and were not in females. And so I sequenced some of that, and I've designed a whole bunch of tests around that early on, and nothing ever worked for, 100 individuals. But what I could do is I could sequence. I would literally sequence a chunk of DNA that I knew was on a sex chromosome. If I took that, let's say that you have a clutch of babies and you want to sex them of green trees. So I had people send me the DNA, the shed from the sire, the shed from the dam, and then I also needed to have either the paternal grandsire or a known male offspring from that same sire. Right. And what I was doing was sequencing actually 3 different places on that where I knew it was a good section of the sex chromosome. And I would look for markers, and different males had different markers. So it was complicated. So I had to actually do the sequencing. I had to do the sequence analysis. I had to compare the sire to the dam and make sure I had a marker that was only in the male, not in the female. And then I had to look at the sire or the son and make sure that I knew that marker only passed to the son. And then I could look at all the offspring, and if I see that marker, I know it's a male. And if that marker is not there, I know it's a female, because that sire passed his other, sex chromosome to that individual, which made it a female.
Sounds
and so
very
it was
time consuming.
It was very, so yeah, to be able to pay somebody to do that. Like if I wanted to hire somebody to just run that, I would have to pay them, you know, in the $50 to $100 an hour kind of range to have somebody with that experience to do that. So it's now that we have so many things going. And then the other big thing that's a huge difference was when I was just doing colubrid sex determination and then this green tree stuff, you know, that was all we were doing. Once we started doing morph testing, we had to scale up. We had to change the process of how we do things. And it made it so the kind of sequencing that I would do to get that green tree python sequence, I could not do that it would be much more expensive. So we have to batch things just like we do with the ball python morphs. And before I had a way I could batch that with other things. And now, you know, that went away. And so it's the same price for a sequencing run, whether I sequence one thing or I sequence 400 things. And so you can't really just have 10 samples or 15 samples. You have to have a batch to make it worthwhile. So anyway, there's a lot of things that made it unfortunate that we just couldn't do that test for a long time. And the whole time I was thinking it doesn't matter because I'll just design the single shed test and we'll do that, you know. But now that this information came out, Shawn and I started talking about, okay, if we go back to doing that test, it'd have to be like a custom, you know, a custom order we'd have to do with each customer individually. And they're going to have to send sire and dam and either a paternal grandsire or no known male offspring. And you know, it's going to be expensive and a pain, but it might be the only way we can do it for a while.
Bill, I got a question for you. Like, okay, explain how game changing it is if we were to have it your way, our way, and we were to have sex shed testing available the way it is. Like, how would that change things for you personally?
Well, I'll tell you, and I've thought a lot about this, and it will change it differently for different people. So, for example, for me, let's say I produce a pair like Jaeger to Biscuit. Okay, that pairing's been done 4 times. I'm not holding any of those animals back. I don't care if they're male or female. I have enough of that bloodline in my collection. The sex test actually hurts me as a seller because now I have people saying, I want a red female. I want a red male. I want a yellow male. I want a yellow female. Well, now I'm like, well, gosh, I may have, you know, 3 of each of those in the clutch, or I may have none of some of those. And so it actually, when that happened to me, it made it harder as a seller because instead of just pricing the animals at, you know, $2,500 and $4,000, you know, now I'm trying to price females a little higher, males a little lower. Well, oh shit, I didn't produce any yellow females, or wow, all the reds were males, you know. So as a seller, it actually hurt me. But as somebody that's producing a clutch and is wanting to hold back a significant number, it's a game changer, right? Because you'd love to hold back 2 or 3 females for every male. So listen, different ways it affects different people, different clutches and all that.
Yeah. And then I was thinking, Justin, what would it be like if you couldn't determine sex on a ball python until like a year and a half? Like, I mean, how game changing would that be for the market, you think, if you weren't able to determine any kind of sex on a ball python until at least a year and a half in or something like that?
I can't even imagine. That sounds like hell, you know, but not what you're used to. Because now I look back to even when we couldn't shed test for like some of the POS heads that we make. And I think back and I'm like, how did we survive back then? I don't even know how we did business. Yeah. So you know, it's all about what you're used to, what your starting point is. You accept it. But then once you get a taste of something else, it's hard to go back.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I hate that happened. That sucked.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I want to bridge things back to ball pythons. And Justin, you know, what do you have as far as questions maybe for either Shawn or Ben that relates to whatever went down this year, or even anything that relates to next year?
Yeah. Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
Are we going to start talking about ball pythons?
Yeah. Then we're going to come back to chondros. We're going to do a little back and forth.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
It's not that kind of podcast. Oh.
Okay, I wasn't completely truthful about the orange shadow. Okay. Please, Justin, continue.
Very smooth, Bill.
Well played, sir. Well played.
All right, Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, guys. So I mean, I'm super excited about like what's coming down the pipeline here, and just how much it has changed the ball python world. Just a little synopsis for us. Like we had so many people, we had so many Patreon videos and different things, like trying to like kind of pre-game what it was going to be like to be able to do all this shed testing, if it was going to destroy the market, if it was going to make it better, if it was, and I mean, I think you guys were in on some of those videos. We were literally just trying to like see all the different scenarios, but in the end, it's been transformational, yes, but I think it's also been kind of, I didn't really upset the market the way I thought it might. In the end, we're still, breeding ball pythons. It's still kind of the same game. It's just really, really cool to be able to maybe accomplish some of the same things with fewer animals, because you actually know what you have the first time. And that really kind of lends itself to a lot of the smaller collectors who have the chance to have a fewer number of animals and keep exactly the right ones they want. And it's been really, really cool. So I just wanted to say that from our perspective, it's been really, really amazing, and amazing from a collection standpoint for us to have you guys. So what's next though? I mean, that's the thing, is that you guys must always feel like, I always suffer from, no matter what I do, people always go, but how about you add this and this and this and this? And so now every time you guys come with a new test, it's always like, well, yeah, but okay, we have that. So what's next?
Yeah.
You can never do good enough. You can never come out fast enough. So what's next?
And I like that. That's what I want. I don't want something that's done. That would be boring. I want to always have something else to work towards. So, so yeah, the biggest thing, and Shawn, definitely feel free to jump in and help out with some of the details. But the biggest thing that I guess our very first goal was, as far as specifically with ball pythons, was we wanted to get to 30 tests in the first year, which we got pretty close. We're there now, and we'll have those all 30 available on Clutch and Morph Market here fairly soon. But so, we had a pretty big drive to do a lot of research and development to develop new tests. And we're still going to do some of that. But as soon as we knew we kind of were at that finish line, I immediately, and over the last year, I've been reading, scientific papers and paying attention to the biotech industry is always improving and changing, and, all that kind of stuff. And so I've been watching and making sure that I took note of ideas that we could use to make our tests better for our customers. And so what we just were able to do this last couple of weeks is we're able to switch over to a new technology that's much faster, and we'll make it so we can, with the setup we have right now, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do 1,000 samples a day. So that's pretty awesome.
Wow.
It's very different. It's game changing, and it makes it so we also.
Just so I heard that right, 1,000 samples a day.
That's the potential throughput. I mean, if we ever actually got
capacity
to that, we'd be super happy, right? But that's the potential throughput.
What are you doing? What are you doing a day now?
It varies, just like hatchling season, we're going to do a lot more than we're going to do, this time of the season, especially January and February. So it varies quite a bit.
I'm sorry, Ben. It's sort of hard to gauge because people can order a test but not send us sheds for months. So even though our volume dollar-wise in sales is going down right now because it's slow sheds, because people bought a bunch of tests months ago. So they're still sending in all that genetic material, even though generally our sales are down this month, next month, February, March, which we expect and is normal. We're still really busy, at least right now. So we'll see. This is the first year we will have experienced sort of what a real slow season looks like, with some existing business and old orders coming in at the same time. So it's a little bit different, but it's all good news. They keep coming in. So, I mean, to answer your question, MJ, 50 to 60 a day on average for an average day. So it's not that much, but when you extrapolate that over 2-3 weeks, and we do a sequencing run every 2 to 3 weeks. And I just wanted to point out, because Ben didn't, the reason we were doing our test that we were deciding to do them, especially in the beginning, is sequencing takes longer, but that's how we do our research to develop new tests. So we're doing our research runs and our paid tests together. We get the most data back. We can develop new tests faster and still get results to our customers. The downside of that was it's a 2 to 5 week wait time, depending on when your shed was received to when we're going to do that next run. Now with genes that we have established, we've run hundreds of samples, in a couple of cases, thousands of samples, and we know they work really well. We've invested in some new tech, although it's not necessarily new to the science, but it's new to us. We can run those tests in a single day, and we can do hundreds of them a day, easily 1,000 if we hired staff to do it. So the support that you guys have given us and the patience you guys have enabled us to develop all these new tests. That's why we sequence. But now that we are able to do that, now we can go back, take the tests that we know are built and stable and are testing really well, and put them through a completely different pathway that's not sequencing. We don't have to do that anymore, and results are 24 to 48 hours. I mean, and that's
game changing.
Yeah. So,
and the other two things that are big from our side, wanting to make things fast for our customers, the other two things is if we have 7 samples, we can just run 7 samples. We don't need to do a big batch. It's not like the sequencing where it's the same cost whether I do 1 or 400. It's not like that.
Right.
So the other big thing is we have constant access to everything we need to run them. Right now, whenever the sequencing, the machine that we're running our tests on, they're a couple $100,000. One of them is $1 million machine, so we can't buy those machines anytime soon. And so, like the next, from Christmas to New Year's, they're going to be closed. So I just won't be able to do those sequencing runs. But with this new technology, we'll have access to that anytime. So that's also huge, because if we tell customers, yeah, we're going to be open on, Veterans Day or whatever, any of the holidays, we don't have to check with someone else to make sure we can do that. We can say, yeah, if they come in that day, you'll have your results that day or the next day or whatever. So,
yeah. Well, Justin, I have to ask you, in a perfect world, you are able to submit any sheds and get them back when you need them. Like, how would that change the market when it comes to people specifically only wanting tested, proven snakes? Obviously I feel like once we kind of get comfortable and used to this kind of awesome fucking technology that was just explained to us, would that make selling a little more stressful, you think?
Yeah, I missed the entire question. You cut out there for a little bit.
So, okay, let's just say shed testing's up to par with everything as far as you getting results when you turn them in and whatnot. But, obviously you are hatching a lot of snakes and selling a lot of snakes. That means, what if people get used to always wanting a tested, proven snake before they buy it off of you? And next thing you know, you just have to start testing almost every snake that you produced at some point. Does that stress you out at all?
If I had to test every single snake, I mean, I kind of feel like I'm getting there a little bit, because now,
Wow.
like I said, once you get used to something, suddenly, I used to never question this, certain combos, but then I'm like, yeah, but then now I can know for sure. And it's just so nice to know for sure. And I'm trying to cut back because I've been giving all my profits to RGI, it feels like. But it is, you can make it a crutch. And I think that's probably I'm trying not to do. But having those shed tests come in faster would be really, really amazing. Obviously, I mean, I'm gotten kind of used to the wait, 3 to 4 weeks sometimes, or 2 to 3 weeks, or just depends. But it'd be amazing to get it fast, especially when there's the odd rerun, and then suddenly it gets to be a double that time. You guys are great about picking those up, but sometimes the customer is bugging me every single day. So, literally I'm getting emails every day. I'm like, come on. It puts the stress on me, and I just, transfer it to you, of course, but it'll be good for everybody.
Justin, what is it mostly that you're running, that you're questioning? Is it some animal that has 3 genes in it and you're not sure if it's 3 or 4 or which 3?
When we first started this, I thought it was kind of dumb to actually even test for codoms. I thought, why even create tests for incomplete dominance? It makes no sense. Right. Just do the recessives. Those are the ones we can't see. We all want to know our hets. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe if you have an ivory, okay, fine. But I find that in lots of stuff, especially when you're making world first combos, like we used to be like, I used to just say, well, this, and this. And I mean, I'm like 60, 70% sure. And that was the end of it. But now that I can know, I'm finding like, well, now if I could prove that this gene's in there and this gene, then I would really know what I'm dealing with, plus from a customer perspective.
What are some of the genes? Like yellow belly. Like, do you know every
yellow
single
belly's a great one.
if it has yellow belly in it, or there's some you're not sure if it's yellow belly?
Right, or highlight pie, does it have OD? It's a super OD. I'm not sure, it's the first time making those.
Sure.
The OD has been one of the biggest ones, and yellow belly has been a big one for me as well. Red stripe has been a really huge one because red stripe is subtle in some combos.
Right.
And again, sometimes if it's the specific gene that somebody wants, like for a lot of people, red stripe is the key gene, or yellow belly is a key gene. Then I have the opportunity to say, hey, look, I have a test on this one. And I don't know. I like it from my perspective because I like to not refund people down the road when it doesn't prove out.
Right.
So I'd rather spend a little bit of money right off the beginning, tell the customer, and then have peace of mind.
Nice.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you work with Mandarin, right, Justin?
Yeah, we need a test for that.
And there's no test for there's not. I was going to ask. There's no test for Mandarin quite yet, right?
Nope. I need more sheds. Anyone listening to this that's got Mandarin, send me sheds. If you go on our website, there's a help us section that gives you a PO box to send to. But yeah, that would be great.
So I mean, since we're on the topic of like, I guess there's morphs people favor and morphs people don't, or maybe morphs people question, whatever. But what's crazy is as we are getting deeper and deeper into the ball python game, I see people not having as much faith with Mandarin for whatever reason. And I'm not too sure why, because I've seen super Mandarin that just I could see from across the show. Like I remember Troy Schroeder had a super Mandarin with TJ there, and I couldn't believe like how that snake sucked me in. So I've seen it, but what would be the the question behind that? Like, why would someone say that?
Well, I was even going to ask Ben, like, so how do you know, like, people sending you Mandarin sheds, like, how do you vet that they're really Mandarin?
Right.
Yeah. So, how much does it throw you off if you get one they say is Mandarin or any other gene and it's not? Does it really screw your results, or does it no big deal?
What happens is we'll have a lot of sheds come in, and if it's a morph, I can get 100 sheds come in for, say, if I got 100 Mandarin sheds in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and see who sent those in, and I'm going to pick the top 10 that I feel like I'm the most confident that this is correct. And, I'll start there. And if I need, like, if it's, the very, very first time we're doing any mapping for like with Mandarin, it would be starting from scratch. So I really need, 20, 30, and I want as many of those to be homozygous as possible, because that gives me twice as much information about where that mutation is. And so, yeah, I mean, if I start with 20 and one is not correct, that's not that big of a deal. But if I start with 20 and 4 or 5 are incorrect, that will make it so I don't get good results, and I might chase something for a little while and find out that it's not going to work, and we have to sequence some more, So it definitely makes more work on the back end. After we do the mapping, I will have more false positives. The software will tell me, hey, this is a good spot to look. This is a good spot to look. And where there's only one real spot, if I get kind of crappy sampling, it might give me 10 to chase, and all 10 might be garbage, but I don't know that unless I check all 10, And so it definitely helps a lot if people are completely confident. If you're not completely confident, then just say that. Say, I'm pretty sure this is a Mandarin. I'm not 100%. And then I know that, and I'll use that later on. When I have something kind of working, then I can put some of those maybes in and say, okay, this one is, this one isn't, and let people know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, not just Justin, but Justin definitely has a repeat customer client base because they don't really feel like they need to question what they're buying from Justin. But there are plenty of people out there who take advantage of that new person coming in and continuously have a rap sheet of giving people fake stuff, you know. And this goes back to like fucking the golden days, you know. Like I heard people in the 90s or 2000s, I'm sorry, being sold fake hat stuff, you know. And I like that we're getting closer to potentially having an end to era like that, because you know it's sad, you know. It's bad and you know, breeders can play stupid all they want, but let's be real. There's people who are just like repeatedly taking advantage of people by selling something that it's not, you know. And it's unfortunate because I really like this Mandarin gene. I really do. And I know people who legitimately have it. Like one of my sponsors, TJ. I love his stock. You know, I've seen it. But I hear so many people saying that there's fake Mandarin stuff out there to the point where it's actually steering people away from the project. And I'm like, man, that sucks, you know. So, but you know, hopefully that could come to a certain point where we could get more answers once we get these legit Mandarin sheds turned in, right, Ben?
Yep.
MJ, a couple of things. I mean, to your first point, you know, we don't have enough Mandarin sheds right now, and a good segue would be to talk about Justin as a partner. He's been great. As we've developed new tests, we can reach out to guys like Justin. We know have hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of certain mutations, and we can ask for sheds. But the flip side of that coin is we still need everybody else's sheds too. We have to be careful when we're developing new tests that the animals aren't too closely related. We end up chasing dozens, if not hundreds, of rabbit holes that are incorrect. So the partnership, like I said, with Canova and getting sheds when we need. I just asked Justin yesterday if he could send another mutation. You know, it's super helpful, but we still need lots of representative animals from other people's collections that have been outbred enough. The more of those we get, the faster we can get to the correct answer. The more inbred they are, the harder it is for us to get there. And then as your other aside, we've already had some very large deals come through our labs that people had to refund very large sums of money because they didn't know genetic testing existed. And they were just large groups of animals that were not what they were sold as, and because they immediately sent them to us, and we were able to say, no, this is not what they said it was. So, I mean, that alone we knew would be valuable. We've already seen it I would guess to the tune of $50,000 to $75,000 already this year. So obviously I can't throw any names out there, but it's been, I don't know, being in this hobby as long as I've been in this hobby and seeing so many people just get screwed over like that, that's really one of the rewarding parts about what we do. Is it really is forcing people to play by the rules. And I'm a pretty straight arrow guy. I don't like people that break the rules. So I'm super happy about that aspect of what we do. Is it kind of forces everybody to do the right thing.
Well, let's paint a picture. Go ahead, Justin.
Real fast. Let me say something about that. I feel like you guys or this testing came on at exactly the right time, because this industry, I'll be honest with you, I think that it could not continue forever without it, because there's just a certain amount of uncertainty. I say industry. I mean, I'm talking for ball pythons. That's what I know. But there's a certain amount of uncertainty that the industry can no longer bear. And with ball python combos, there was just no real consumer protection. And for anybody who is to come in and not really know what they're looking for, they are absolutely an easy target, and they cannot really, they have no way of knowing or validating what they're buying. And so just having that validation, that little bit of like, the security officer sitting in the corner to keep everybody honest, that's kind of what you guys are. And I think I've refunded a snake because it didn't prove out from testing. But that's exactly what this industry needs. This industry needs a certain amount of accountability, and they need sellers to be a little bit nervous, and they need buyers to have a little bit more power. And that allows the industry to grow in a professional way, because everybody's got a little bit of a reason to be honest and keep things legit, right? So I think that it's been really key. Actually, I think it's critical for what we're doing.
It's a great point.
And I will say this, I know you guys will agree, but there's so many like good waves of, I guess you could say, good luck that happens to you in the reptile world. Like I just feel like if you do things right and you do right by people, good things happen to you in this fucking game. I don't know what it is.
Reptile karma.
The reptile world is so rewarding like that. And if you just do the right thing, as simple as like, you know what, even if the customer doesn't even ask for the refund, just do what's right and watch how the return is. It's, it took me my whole life to fucking figure that out, by the way. I don't want to make it seem like, I've been this my whole life. No, it took me 34 fucking years to figure that out, you know? But also like, because how beautiful the reptile world is, it's all because of the people I've met. I know I've met really good people in my life, but it really started connecting with me when I came into the reptile world. And Justin, you know, I'm sure that's not the only refund you maybe had to do out of the kindness of your heart, but that's kind of why people will always come back to you. Like it's kind of like a practice of good business. And if you are always like that, no matter, even to your friends, right? Because, you know, always friends want special privileges, but if you just do what's right by the business standpoint, you're not going to go wrong. You know what I mean? But we just need more people to stand by that and
just operate in good faith. You know, that's what I said at the beginning. You know, that's what RGI has done since the beginning. You guys have operated in good faith. You know, you're there to be a part, to be an asset, and to share, and to, you know, that's, people know when you're operating in good faith, and that just pays off over a lifetime. You know, it's a snowball effect. Okay, I want to go back and paint the scenario to you guys real quick, and let's kind of help anyone out there who's in a situation like this, because we already know this is kind of happens to a lot. And you know, people who come across someone's collection or whatever, and let's just say they're not even in the scene, they met this person that got them into the scene, but now they're tapped in and they're either watching Trap Talk or they're a part of Canova's Patreon or whatever. Like, they're paying attention, but they're questioning what they have and they're not too sure what they have. Let's just say, for instance, all the stuff they have is Mandarin, but they're not too sure if they actually have Mandarin. What does somebody do in that case? How does someone chill out? Obviously, like, I mean, should they be collecting test sheds and wait for that moment? Or what's some advice to maybe just kind of chill someone out there who's just wondering if they even have legit stuff or not?
Well, I would jump in right away and say, from the shed testing standpoint, if you have something that's a morph like Mandarin we don't have a test for yet, right, and you want to be able to test as soon as we do, yeah, definitely start pulling sheds now. There's, I think, two main ways that are really good to do it. If you have, you know, a filing cabinet or a little, filing, small thing, whatever, like, you can collect the shed, dry it out, put it in an envelope and drop it in that folder, that file, whatever. And I have sheds that I've had in my basement in Ziploc bags for over 7 years, and they still work. So whether you put them in Ziploc bags or put them in envelopes at room temperature, as long as they get removed and dried well, quickly after they're shed, if it sits around in the wet, that's when they get destroyed. But yeah, if you pull it and dry it out, put it in a Ziploc bag or an envelope, then it'll be good for years and years. So yeah, definitely pull your sheds. Anything you think you want to test in the future, that it'll keep just fine.
MJ, how about you start a step before that and you get your Mandarin from a reputable source?
Yeah, but okay, listen, at the end of the day,
if it proves out in the future to not be Mandarin, somebody that might take care of it.
Oh, so what you're saying is buy one from where you know it is Mandarin and then start.
Well, yeah, or it has a very, very good chance of being Mandarin. And then if it turns out not to be, buy it from a source that may do something about it.
Yeah.
Not off Craigslist.
Not off Craigslist. But here's the thing. There's so many stories. Like my story starts off Craigslist. I mean, as funny as that is, but my very first snake that had just laid a clutch for me 2 months ago was from Craigslist, 2015, 16, I think. You know,
it probably wasn't a Mandarin.
No, it wasn't. I just want my shed test. No, but seriously though, like, it gets kind of to the point where someone's like, I already spent all this money. Like, I don't fucking, what do you I have to buy another steak to get the answers to what I got? You know what I mean? So, because if people are buying snakes off Craigslist, God bless them, they're more likely on a budget, or they're just trying to do things while they can. And not everyone has money just to dump on shit. That's what I'm saying. But, at the end of the day, step by step, you do get somewhere. But, I just, some people don't always know to go to a reputable source because they don't know who that is. They just got told or they got pitched at a show or whatever. You know what I mean? So there's just so many scenarios of people coming to the game with not the right kind of knowledge or just no mentorship, and they just bought what they bought and here they are. You know what I'm saying? So, and a lot of those new people come to this show. That's why I'm kind of like trying to help people like that out so they can figure out what they have and maybe create some sort of action plan versus just breeding what they have and just seeing what they have and then just lose interest, I guess, right? Because I think one thing about RGI, guys, that I love, it creates so much excitement behind the ball python game this year. Other than Justin's vlogs and other people dropping amazing productions, the whole talk behind DG, that was fire. Actually, I should take a screenshot. My biggest Spotify download of the year was the obliteration. What was the title of that, Justin? The DG
Oh,
Justin picked a title.
Obliterated.
Yeah,
Did I?
Yeah, great title. But anyways, that was the biggest show of the year as far as downloads and listens go on Spotify. So I don't know. Knowledge is power, and I just think it's cool that we are on another level as far as stuff to geek out on in the ball python game. And even though wherever market talk is being talked about, it's still growing. People are still coming in regardless what is happening. Mm-hmm. It's more people leaving than people not coming in. People are still coming in, and people are deciding to jump off or not. I don't know. So yeah, pretty wild stuff. Justin, have you noticed anybody like that maybe throughout the years that are just turning in their ball python lab coat and quitting? Like, have you heard of anyone this year?
Yeah, a few. Wouldn't necessarily be household names, but quite a few people have reached out to me privately and said, "Hey, Justin, just want to let you know that we're moving on. We're selling our collection, whatever. It's not what we thought. It's a tough year or whatever." And that's legit. That's legit even when it's not a recession, because we say this on our Patreon all the time. Is reptiles are a lifestyle. Because especially if you have a collection of them, it's one thing if you have one snake, fine, you have one dog, one cat, whatever, you get a pet sitter. But if you are trying to have a hobby of reptiles and you have, more than a dozen, you are significantly, you're giving up a lot. There's a lot of opportunity costs there because you're caring for living animals day in, day out.
Justin, I went as far as refer to them as a ball and chain. I think on Tuesday.
Well, I'm trying to keep it positive here, man. All right.
But hey, some people are
mute Bill Stegall here.
I've been that positive too.
Some people are into that kind of weird stuff, Justin. Some people are into that ball and chain. Yeah. One of them.
No, but I would say under the best of circumstances, there's a large percentage of people who will have major life things pop up over the course of, say, 5 years.
Yeah.
Between divorces and new children and moving across the country or the world or whatever it is to say that, they would take their hobby and make it into a pet again, Mm-hmm. And I think those pressures come to bear even more so when there's a global recession. So it's par for the course, and not everybody is equally as hardcore about it, and that's okay. We're not shaming anyone here. But I think on your podcast it's a little different. But
what?
Yeah.
Wow, Justin, this is a positive.
You guys, I'm saying you guys are legit. I think you guys are legit.
RGI shirt.
Yeah, put the RGI shirt back.
Saying your viewers are legit, I think, but everybody, it just happens. It's part of it.
Yeah, but man, I totally can see how life happens, right? But like you said, this is a lifestyle. And some people think it's as easy as we're like, okay, I have a room full of snakes, but if the time ever comes, I'm just going to sell my collection. Hey, asshole, have you sold your collection yet? You haven't, have you? And guess what? There's a fat chance you won't sell your collection, and you're going to have to be stuck with that shit. And it's sad. It's scary to think. But you're more like, but maybe it's kind of like a rude awakening. Like maybe, do you have to sell your collection, or are you just trying to get out because you could maybe save a little coin or whatever? But that's for that person who's wasn't in it for the right reason, and it's very unfortunate. But I know I love what I keep. Even my ball pythons, I adore them. I fucking love them. There's never like anything in this room I'm attached to,
Yeah, they're not disposable either. They're animals, right? This is not the stock market where you grab stocks and you buy them because they're going down a little bit. And these are animals, and they're not something to be like, I'm going to get out of this project, just dump them because nobody wants them. I'd like to think that I know people are like that. Those are the first people to go. And
I think Justin will be the first to tell you it's pretty easy to get over your head with ball pythons. It can happen very quickly. Because they're so popular, and you could there's so many different mutations and morphs, and you got to have this, and you got to have this, and you got to have this, and then all of a sudden, you've got a substantial collection, and then you start breeding them, and now all of a sudden, in a 3 or 4 or 5 year period, I think it's very easy to get over your head, in the number of animals that you quickly can amass. And I think that's happened to some people. And the rodent bill certainly isn't going down every month. The rodent bill's going up every month because they're not getting any cheaper.
No.
I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, to Justin's point, I'm still at heart a carpet python guy, and I mentioned earlier I don't breed them anymore, and the reason for that was a lifestyle change for me. I mean, I moved out onto a farm, and I don't have the free time that I used to have, and a dozen pairs of carpet pythons in one season can produce over 300 babies relatively easily. Wow. So you go from a collection of 24 animals to 324 in one season, and that's a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of work. And when I had the time to do that, I loved it, but it became, I don't have the time to do this, and the animals are suffering, and that's not okay. And I had to let it go. And it's one of those things that with ball pythons, it's probably just as easy, especially since there's so many different colors and varieties to fall in love with and projects you want to jump into until you start producing the babies and realize they all have to be fed, they all have to be watered, they all have to be cleaned. It's a lot more work than I think a lot of people realize.
You know what, Justin, listen, I'm not like, I've definitely looked at your life, like, especially when I went to your house, and I was like, this would be awesome. You know, like, I'm just like, I don't know if you guys, okay, raise your hand if you've been to Justin Kobylka's house. I've been to Justin's house, okay? And you haven't been there yet, Shawn? Wow, what a loser. I'm just kidding.
He hasn't invited me yet, man. He doesn't want to race.
I've been there.
Sean's been to my house.
Okay,
I've been to both of Bill's houses, the old one and the new one.
There you
Justin,
go.
you'll never forget a place like Justin's. Let's just say that, okay? Like there's a scenic shot of Justin's, like where you can see the mountains, and it's just like out of a movie. It just doesn't seem real. It's beautiful, right? Wow, I would love that someday. But one thing I don't think I would want, Justin, and I somewhat experience this now, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but coolest reptile podcast in the world. A lot of people out there have failed in the podcasting game. All right. And it's because it's not easy. Like, this is something where it's a fucking lifestyle. Podcasting is a lifestyle too. It really is, right?
Yeah.
Justin, you are on top of the fucking food chain of the ball python game in a market that it doesn't look like you're hurting much at all. Okay. It looks like you're still doing the thing and selling and whatnot. But I mean, how many people you feel are envying you right now because of that? And especially people who've been in the game for a long time who are like not doing good whatsoever. Like, we're talking about people exiting the game, but we're also talking about people who've been in the game for decades that are going to be now turning in the towel. And I don't know, like, do you even think of that? Like, man, I hope they're not mad at me or whatever, but like, how does that make you feel? I'm just curious.
You know, I can't take on the burdens of the world, but I do think about, you know, just all the different people and their perspectives and everything. You know, it's funny because, you know, a year and a half ago, we would never have had that conversation because everybody was so over the moon about the growing, you know, market and how strong ball python prices were. And now I feel like we've returned back to, like, to me, it's very familiar. It's back to the good old days where I was grinding with my snakes in my own snake room and nothing was easy and you never knew what was going to happen. And it feels very familiar to me, but I think a lot of people came in and they only experienced the good and they haven't seen the other side of the cycle yet. And I don't know what to say. You know, it's just one of those things. Like you said, the podcasting thing, the snake keeping thing, it's a lifestyle, it's a grind. And it's not for everyone, but that isn't, you know, there's a lot of things in the world I wouldn't do and I couldn't do. And I couldn't even, my wife homeschools my kids. I couldn't trade places with her for one day without losing my mind, you know? So I just think there's different strokes for different folks. And I'm pleased to be fitting my spot that God put me in this world for.
Right. And then, I mean, no, you know, Bill being, you know, Mr. Chondro of the year, basic Mr. Chondro breed of the year, has people at his front door fucking want to tear him down. I'm just kidding.
That's not true.
No, Bill,
but Justin makes a great point. Nothing comes easy.
No,
right? I mean, people during COVID thought ball python shit came easy, and nothing comes easy. It may come easy for
not forever. Yeah,
not forever. I mean, nothing comes easy. It may come easy for a little bit of time. Nothing comes easy when you're in it for the long haul. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter, you know, if it's stocks or crypto or ball pythons or whatever it is, you know, nothing comes easy. You've got to grind. Got to grind.
Yeah. But you got to grind it while it's like not so beautiful in the world. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how it develops the character of what you're doing, is when you survive the rainy days. You know what I'm saying? And because you guys could all witness and attest that everything goes like this. And not only the reptile world, but in life, there's good timings and bad timings. But I like we're saying, the reptile world's so rewarding, you know, just sticking around, you get rewarded. I feel like, you know, but it's a beautiful time because there's so much more to come, you know, like we're in the beginning stages of so many things. Like, just for you to say, Justin, that you feel like you're back grinding again, like you're in the golden days, but now we're in a new set of golden days because of all the new exciting stuff we have to look forward to. And I'm sure there's stuff, even though you say you claim you sleep good at night, I know there's stuff that wake you up at night and get you out of bed, get you going. I'm sure there is, because if I had that garage that you're in right now, holy shit, I'd sleep in that garage. No, but you know, one thing I want to talk to Dr. Ben about, okay, because we're talking about all this glorious stuff as far as what's happening with Justin and whatnot and his ball pythons. But you, my friend, keep ball pythons, right? You have some projects going on yourself. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben.
Yep. I've so 2 years ago, 2022, I had, I think, 67 or 68 clutches of ball pythons, and
wow,
I think 3 or 4 hunter and milk snake clutches. And then all of the work for RGI started, and I think I only paired, I don't know, a dozen, 15 females. And so this last year I got like 11 clutches. So that was a huge difference. But I knew, first of all, I was too busy to pair, and second of all, just knew in the back of my mind I'm not going to have enough time. I've been doing my first time hatching out ball pythons was 2003, so I've
wow,
gone through the cycles, you know, a few times, and so times like this, I definitely have no problem, you know, taking care of the awesome breeders that I have, and the ones I was raising up, you know, take care of them for a couple of years and not produce as many. And you know, it's no problem. I still get like I've said on a few podcasts now, I didn't realize till COVID how much the is to be able to walk into the snake room and just spend, you know, a half hour or 2 hours or whatever, is really good for my mental health. And I took that for granted until COVID. And I realized so many other people that didn't have something like that, they couldn't just walk next door and go into a place that helped them. You know, those things they were shut away from for months in some cases. But yeah, so this year I haven't paired a single animal yet. I'm thinking that it might get to a point in the next month. I might at least do a few pairings again, do like another 10 or so. But the person that helps me, Kevin, the one that came up to Justin's and helped pull sheds with me, he became an apprentice tattoo artist, and so he's been extra busy too. So it was kind of bad timing as far as our breeding goes. But I mean, we just, you know, pulled the reins back, just don't, kind of like what Shawn did, just don't produce as many for a couple of years. And Kevin and I have been talking. He just got licensed, and he's all good to go, and he doesn't have to put in as many hours now as he did before. And I'm hoping after a couple of years with RGI, so I've still got, I think, a few more really good hard months to go to make sure everything's going good. 4 months,
4 more years of grinding.
years
Plan.
Yeah, so I might start to do more pairing, but yeah, I think this year 2024 will be another pretty small year for me, but you know, that's fine. It's the adults that I'm the most attached to. I've had some of them for over 10 years, so making the babies, probably my very most favorite part is seeing them hatch out of eggs. Every season I start having dreams when I know I'm within a month of the first one's hatching. I start having dreams that my eggs are hatching every single year. So I love that. And so it's been a little bit sad not hatching out as many this last year, but yeah, it'll come back, I think.
Are you gonna you're breaking numbers next year, Justin? You feel like you're gonna produce more next year than you did this year?
I don't think so. I think it'll be the same or maybe a little less. I'm taking care of my best projects, but I feel like less necessary to produce the volume right now in the current market. You know, we're listening to the demand from the customers.
Yeah, and do you think that might go on for even a couple years, if you could predict? Or I mean, I don't know. Where do you see this going?
If I knew the answer to that, I would have the answer to the crystal ball for the stock market and everything else in the world, because it's really all connected. As soon as everybody feels like they're doing better and inflation's tamed and they're saving money, then they invest in their hobbies. and it'll come right at the same time as all that kind of unlocks. We've been in this contraction period now for over a year, and the Fed's talking about reducing rates. And honestly, if I had a crystal ball, I would say that next year we'll be feeling a lot better than we do right now. But it might last an extra year. But it just, who knows? But in the end, we're in. Everybody here is very committed, and we know people love their snakes. It's just a matter of them having the bandwidth to invest in them again, either financially or with their time.
And Shawn, you don't really have a date when you want to breed again. You said like you're kind of just hanging out and just winging it, or what's going on with you actually wanting to breed again at some point?
Well, give me 20 seconds and I'll answer that question. I'm a really good example of the opposite end of the spectrum. My day jobs are owning a couple of service businesses. When times are getting tougher and economically getting a little tougher, it's actually a really good time for my business because people are looking for work again. I'm only limited geographically where I am. I'm blessed to have a huge customer base, potential customer base. When the economics get tight, people are looking for work. And my only limiting factor in my business has always ever been finding good people to do the work. So it is really cyclical. And that's what I'm trying to point out to everybody is that, although you're feeling it over here as kind of pain, other businesses are doing well because people are going back to work. And that's why the cycle works. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. The next couple of years for us, I'm expecting tremendous growth. And I know this because I've been doing this for 25 years and I've seen it happen at least 3 times over the last 25 years where there's a big, super, very, very, very like positive feel to the economy. And then things dip for a couple of years. And whenever that happens, we grow 25 or 30% over a couple of years. It happens every single time. And so it really is a cycle. And just remember that wherever you're feeling pain now, there are other businesses that are doing really well. And that's why it's cyclical and why it always. Your question again, MJ, ask it one more time. Or did you forget it already?
No, your question was, my question was as far as, do you have a date on you breeding again? Like as far as like all, your carpets, the adults you have, like, is there a timeline where you feel like you would want to start getting back on the ball again?
Okay, so the truth is I'm going to do a little fanboy envy here. I'm going to pull a bill at probably the 6 or 7 year mark here and retire. And when I retire, I'm either going to be doing RGI part-time-ish or sell some or all of my ownership stake and completely retire and go back to doing what I love, which is working with my animals. Besides snakes, I'm also a falconer, and I had to drop that hobby as well because I just don't have time.
A falconer, like an actual falcon, a bird. Yeah. Falconry, is that what it's called? Falconry.
Yes. Yep. So I've sacrificed quite a few of my real passions over the last 6 or 7 years, and I'm going to do it for another 5, 6, maybe 7. And then hopefully I'm going to be able to retire and just do what I love for the rest of my days. That's why I built this place out in the country so I can enjoy my life. Like I said, I'm going to pull a bill and retire and focus on what I love. And right now I love working RGen, and I'd really like to do it full time. So if the next 2 or 3 years I can get out of those service businesses after they grow and I sell them, I'd really like to do that. So that's the goal for me.
Are there any falcons in that room right now?
No, I don't have any birds right now.
So at all periods. So but the point is to get back into it is what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I did it for the better part of a decade, and I love it. It's one of the things I'm super passionate about, and it's sort of like you guys were talking about. It's a lifestyle. When you keep birds of prey, it's not something you can not do. When you have those birds, you have to fly them. When you have those birds, you have to feed them every day. You can't skip a day. So if you go on vacation, you have to know somebody that can come take care of your animals for you, or they will die. They'll starve to death in a couple of days. So it's a pretty serious hobby, but it really does require kind of a lifestyle. And if you don't have the time to dedicate to it, I'm not advocating anybody even try falconry unless you have lots and lots of spare time, because it requires a big hunk of your life, but it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
I might have time. I don't know. I want to learn more. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, because I love birds. Like I appreciate like a macaw and stuff like that. I always want one, but I'm like, okay, you don't want to go there because it's a whole like understanding it, and it's not easy. It's not that easy. So I always appreciate like how much of a lifestyle change it is to own a bird like that. But how do you get into a game? Like even with your experience, how are you going to maneuver yourself back into the falconry game? Like how do you just start with one? Do you start with a pair? Like how does it work?
How do you become a falconer? Is that what you're asking?
Or like, what do you like? Do you have?
How would I get back into it?
Yeah, like, do you have a specific species you would get? Like,
Yeah.
how would you do all that? I'm just curious.
Most falconers go out with a trap and trap a wild bird and just train it.
Whoa, you could do that
within a month. Yeah. Yeah, that's how
This is trap talk, man. Let's get into it.
That's real
Trap
good.
a wild bird and you train it for around a month and then you start hunting with it. And then after the hunting season, you either release it and start again the next year, or you keep it and take care of it over the winter and then or over the spring and summer and then start hunting again in the fall.
MJ, this is Texas. This isn't California, okay?
Yeah.
We can do whatever the fuck we want out here.
I'm pretty sure we can't catch no birds out where I'm at for sure. That's a big no. Wow,
You're
that's
catching
cool.
birds on the freeway and you get someone off to catch a bird or two.
Hell yeah.
Funny part is, Justin, is
Put
the
in the
best
back of
place
the
to
pickup
trap
truck and head on home.
falcons is usually on light poles along major roads.
So you're so if you were to enter the game again, you're gonna go catch one, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, I could go catch one tomorrow. They're all over the place here.
Wow.
They're not hard to catch. They're not hard to trap. They're very simple animals, and when you understand them, they're actually very simple to work with. But you have to understand what you're dealing with. But once you understand the rules, it's really not hard. They do three things: they eat, they sleep, and they make babies. That's it. They don't care about anything else.
What's the most birds you've ever had under your care?
Just two.
Just
You're,
two?
you're limited on your license with how many you can have. I can have two. To become a master falconer, which enables you to have 5 birds, you can also fly eagles and stuff at that point. Is a whole nother level of certification that most guys don't go through. It's not that important to me.
That was cool. I mean, that was like a bonus of information right there.
It's like a man card right there.
Look, I mean,
Flying
I've
eagles.
been an animal guy my whole life. And so your question was, what are my plans? And I built this farm for a reason. I've got plenty of space to do all of the things I've ever wanted to do all in one place. Right. So I have a plan. I'm just working my way through it. And, ideally RGI is kind of my dream job. I just can't do it full time yet, but I will eventually.
Day by day. It's a possibility, though, is what you're saying. Like, you wouldn't be opposed to it, is what you're saying.
If I could get out of what I'm doing in 2 more years and do RGI full time, that's the plan. That's my goal for sure. But then 5-6 years after that, unless I'm just collecting a salary for part-time work, I would probably just be done. So I would just retire.
You and Bill will be meeting each other in Cabo here pretty soon, probably. Who knows?
I'll see you in Italy, bro.
Yeah, buddy.
Hey, I want to bridge this to a next topic, because as much as I'm all about the ball pythons and chondros, in a way, but I also love so many other species, and I got so many good homies out there who keep other species and whatnot. And I don't want to miss Dylan, my good friend Dylan's super chat here. So Dylan from D's Balls and Exotics says, obviously ball pythons are where the income is mainly going to reside for these tests, but what is the chance of some tests for Burmese python hets?
So that's something we've had some sheds sent in, but just to give a perspective, for us to really start being able to develop tests in ball pythons, I mean, we had like over 500 sheds. I've probably gotten, I don't know, maybe a couple dozen Burmese sheds. So we definitely need a lot more, and we would be very happy to collect them in. You're interested in Burmese python shed testing, send what you've got in, where like we talked about earlier, for sure what the genetics are, and if there's any possibles, right on there, hey, this is possible for this or that. But yeah, we need the sheds. We're hoping in 2024 to be able to branch out into a couple more species, at least in some kind of test. We might not be able to do as many morph tests as we do in ball pythons for a little bit, but at least have some tests in a few more species. And it would be great to have Burmese be that. We just got to have more sheds.
Is there like go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, man. One of the things people should know is that anytime we break into a new species, it's a $25,000 to $50,000 investment. Yeah. Just to get started. So that's part of it. We can collect. We need the sheds first. We have to have the genetic material, but then we have to spend the money. That's just to get the research started, to start looking at where the mutations are and things like that. Now there are some cheat codes, if you will, that we can use to maybe back our way into you know, maybe the albino berm is very similar to the albino ball python, and we can back into a test that way. But some of the stuff that's unique to Burmese pythons, the only way we're going to find it is if we do some higher end genomic work, and it's pretty expensive. Part of my job during slow season over the next few months is going to be contacting some of the bigger breeders in our next 3 target species and saying, do you want to contribute? Because we want to work in these species, but we don't want to work out a couple $100,000.
What species are those, Shawn?
Corn snakes, hog snake, hognose snakes, and probably boas.
Oh shit.
But if anybody comes to us with 25 to 50 and says, I want you to work on Burmese pythons, we'd be happy to start working on Burmese pythons. It's just, we only have so much revenue and so much of an R&D budget to go around. And we just can't jump into everything all at once. Right now, ball pythons are the #1 part of the industry. The next are hognose snakes, boas, and the colubrids. And we suspect that corn snakes and a lot of those mutations in between a lot of this more popular colubrids are going to be very similar, and we'll be able to get back into a bunch of mutations once we get a good corn snake genome or king snake genome.
Shawn, is there a lizard market at all? I mean,
yeah, good question.
There is. I mean, one of the bigger target arenas for us would probably be, I don't know. I don't want to say.
Well, it would definitely be sex determination. As far as lizards go, sex determination in blue tongues, Heloderma, and Varanus, monitor lizards. Those 3 I've wanted to do, all along. And I have tried a few things in all 3, and nothing has worked yet. But yeah, as far as lizard species, those are probably the first tests that I would want to work on would be sex determination. I think they'd be much more helpful in those species than any morph tests.
I'm not a lizard guy, but it's not leopard geckos. What's the other one that's really popular?
Crested.
Crested, yeah.
Yeah, crested.
Leeches are good. Leeches are big too. I would say.
Yeah, there's not as many though. We're lucky enough to, one of our vendors has lots of stats on what sells, so we know what's selling the most at any given time. They're right up there. The crested are right up there.
Crazy. I wanted to ask this question because I mean, at the end of the day, it's about popularity. Like, what do the people want more? And if whoever brings more, before the other person, they're going to be the one who gets what they want. But I mean, other than ball pythons, second one would be what? What would be right under ball pythons? Would it be boas or hognoses? You would say
it's kind of a close tie between those two. I was about to say they're
neck and neck, probably.
About an equal number of requests for tests for both, and all of the stats prove out that they're selling at about the same rate. And that's you're dead on. As a business, you go where the pet industry is going, and that's where those are going. And if someone else wants other work done, we're happy to do it. It's not a lack of interest. We're hobbyists at heart, right? I mean, we used to talk about working with Fiji Island iguanas and all these super rare species is, when Ben retires, just because it'll be fun and we don't have to worry about, keeping a business alive. But right now we have to remember we're still in our first year, and, we have to focus on the things that are going to be the most popular. But again, if somebody comes along and says, look, here's $50,000, I want you to do a full high quality genome for a male and female Burmese python, figure out a sex determination, and then start reverse engineering all the, mutations. Okay. We already know how to do it. We'd love to do it. It's just, where do we put that R&D budget any given year?
Where's that 50K? Whoever got it, let's go.
That's all, just 50.
PayPal, friends and family, please. Okay, but Justin, I was gonna ask you something. I completely forgot. Oh man, this happens once an episode. I had it. It was right there.
You know what? That's because it's time for you to say, smash that subscribe, that like.
Yeah, I mean,
send in the chats.
The likes are really great, by the way. The likes are really awesome. So I don't really have to complain about the likes. The likes are great out there. Thank you everyone for the likes.
I knew this was going to be a big episode. A lot of people
good
interested in this one.
This was awesome. But now I don't know what the hell my question was for Justin to relate to everything we're talking to right now. Go, Bill.
You're good, man.
Bill, take over. Come on.
Well,
Hop in, Bill. I'll think of it.
I had a question for Ben. Somebody asked me, you were talking about the longevity of sheds that can be stored properly and that you can analyze. What about a shed that's been frozen?
Oh,
yeah, that's great. Frozen is even better. Really the only critical thing, and anyone that's watched our stuff, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, but the critical thing, the biggest enemy to the DNA is water, moisture, humidity.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you cannot let that shed be in that kind of a condition for very long. The other thing is, like, people will we tell them, you know, just send us the size of a quarter. They'll send the whole shed. Well, there's a big chunk of that shed that was nice and dry and clean, but there's another part that was still wet when you put it in the Ziploc. And guess what? It destroyed the whole shed because it's in a Ziploc.
That actually happens a lot. I mean, if you think about it, we ask everybody to send us something in a Ziploc bag. And if you send me an entire shed and half of it's rolled up and it never had a chance to completely dry and just this section is dry, by the time I get the shed a week later in the mail, I can see the condensation in the bag. So I already know the shed's toast. I'll try to test it anyway, but it'll almost always fail.
Yeah.
So if you have one that's frozen, though, it's eventually going to thaw out. You don't worry about the moisture that's associated with the thawing of a frozen shed.
So if you're going to freeze them, just put them in Ziplocs. And when I thaw them here, for you, when you send them to me, just keep it in the bag, send it to me. When I thaw them, I'm going to, leave them in the bag while they thaw. The moisture will be on the outside of the bag. And even if the shed does get wet, like, it's totally fine. If you have the best part of the shed you can find still has some, bedding on it or whatever, you can go over, put it under the water and, use your fingers to get the, chunks off of it. That's totally fine. And then set it somewhere that's dry and let that dry for like a whole day or whatever until it's completely dry before you put it in the Ziploc, and you're good to go. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah, that's no problem. You just can't let them sit wet. That's when there's
consistent moisture contact that's going to kill the DNA.
And I know you guys already said this, but it doesn't need to be that much either, right? Just the size of a quarter is what you're saying?
Size of a quarter. Yep. Inch square, however you want to
30, 40 samples. But people, believe it or not, that's more than enough.
And one thing Shawn and I have talked about doing a short video. I still need to do this. But another thing that you can do is, especially if it's a juvenile or an adult snake, it's decent. Obviously, some species stay really small, so maybe you wouldn't want to go this way. But if you just flip them over and go to a belly scale, you got a nice big belly scale. There's part of that scale on the very outside part that's clear. And if you just shave off with small scissors, it can be like the size of an eyelash. Just shave off like 2 pieces like that, put it in a Ziploc bag. Those work always. I haven't had a single scale clip that didn't work for me. We also tried where
lost him. Dr. Ben.
He's just saying sperm plugs, I think.
I was going to say we've done sperm plugs. That's worked really well.
Yes.
We're trying some more.
We lost you like this. Go ahead. Go
so like you're gonna pop them. Any goo, doesn't matter what color it is, just kind of tap it with a paper towel.
Okay.
And whatever soaks in, you could send that as well. That's only worked like 50-60% of the time, so that's not near as good. But the scale clips are awesome.
Now, my question though, even though this wasn't what I forgot. I just remembered though, Justin. What's the one morph that is on your I cannot wait to get this shed test available? What is there one you're waiting for right now?
Probably Monarch and Puzzle. I would say Monsoon, but Monsoon has a kind of visual head. So, as much as I would love to get to know exactly what I have, I kind of have a good idea on most of my boss heads for that. So yeah, probably Puzzle or Monarch would be my next 2. And Ben, a question for you. I know you said you're close to Puzzle last time we talked, or maybe you're trying to just validate a little more. I'm really curious, and maybe really probably premature, but I'm really curious if there's any connection between the fact that Puzzle and Cryptic look so similar, and you can't make a Cryptic clown, but it kind of seems like you can't really make a Puzzle clown either that's visual. Is there any connection there between those? We can't figure out why. There's some weirdness going on there, and the fact that they're so similar looking, I think there's some connection there.
Yeah, I'll have to look. I don't pay attention to locations. I'm pretty sure they're on different chromosomes. So But what
we know
can
there's no
happen,
connection between we know there's no connection between puzzle and clown as far as interactions between them. But when you make a double homozygous, it's very subtle, right? Very subtle, if at all. But then the cryptic and the puzzle are almost identical looking, and you can't make a cryptic clown because they are on the same location, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if there's any scientific explanation of that, or maybe you'll discover some reason why.
Yeah, one thing that could be, and I don't know enough right now, but over the next year or two, especially working with like Dr. Stegall and Dr. Rafi in Canada, what we could find out is those puzzle and cryptic could be part of a pathway where a specific protein is made or proteins that interact with each other. That's kind of like the axanthics. What we're thinking might happen there is there are different genes on different chromosomes that are part of the same pathway to make it look axanthic. So even though they're in different places and they're completely separate, they segregate independently. Since they're part of the same pathway, if you need A, B, C, and D to happen to get normal color, you just have to either knock out A or knock out B or knock out, so it might be something like that where we find out cryptic and puzzle are part of the same pathway that has to do with color and pattern, I guess more pattern in that case. But yeah, that's kind of like the next step as far as like the real nerdy part that the academic researchers have started working on with the cool papers that the Eastern Michigan group and the Canadian group have come out with. And as we get more of these pattern mutations, that'll be pretty cool. I think eventually there will be a really cool paper on the spider complex and what those genes are doing and why this or that happens. I think there's a lot of really fun stuff as far as someone that wants to, read deep into and think about the pathways and the proteins and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be pretty fun in the next 5 years to see what all comes out.
Bitchin'.
Awesome. Yeah. Excited.
All right. Listen, I got a wrap-up question, and then we'll either go to Bill or Justin for their wrap-up question. If you guys are okay. Are you guys cool with that, Justin and Bill?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
My wrap-up question for you guys, Shawn and Ben, Dr. Ben. It doesn't really grind my gears, but it kind of does. I'm not gonna lie. But there's so many goddamn names for one morph. I feel like in the ball python game. Another beauty of RGI, right? We're getting to a point where we can really figure out what is what. But and Justin, I want you to chime in on this also. Bill, you're pretty content and good with your projects. I don't think you give two shits.
No, not really. I'm kind of zoning out right now, to be honest.
Maybe banana and coral glow Bill would care about.
I would indeed.
But how do you guys
listen, MJ? Who's going to help me decide? I've got a bunch of these bells that are Russo possible, lesser or possible Russo Mojave. I'm going crazy over here.
Your IG model, your Instagram model customers don't give a shit, Bill. I don't think they care. No, but seriously, like, Ben, you being someone who always obviously been keeping ball python since the early 2000s, but whenever I just feel like a name just pops out of nowhere, I just feel like it's something that it's the fun, it's cool also sometimes, but like, how do we kind of get to a point where no one could just come up with the name and unless they have some sort of like proof behind it? Will we ever get to that? Will it ever be that easy to actually prove if someone thinks they have something that they say that they have?
Yeah, we've talked about it on our show for $5,000, and I think it was 50 sheds that we would want collected if possible. We could start it with 30 if we needed to, but then we would do the mapping. So there are a couple people already collecting sheds that plan to, whether it's just one individual or in one case it's 4 or 5 people that have been working on a project. So we'll be able to find out for sure, we essentially, when they come public and make it available, there would already be a test developed. So for that new morph, so that certainly would put it in a different category than other potential new morphs, because this one's already got a genetic test for it. And, if people think that's cool, that's a part. And I've heard Justin say this before, there's only so much people think maybe we have, you know, a lot of influence or whatever. Really, a lot of it depends on all of you. If that's something cool and people respect and are excited about that, then, you know, more people will do it. And if not, then, you know, I guess we won't keep doing it. But yeah, we definitely are interested in doing that and already have a couple projects going in that way, so that you'd have a new morph that already has a genetic test for it.
The only advice I would give is if you think you have something new, outcross it as much as possible and save every single shed.
Yeah.
And send them to us.
Right.
And obviously, since we need at least 30 to 50 sheds, you know, you can't do it like the first year. You've got to breed them a few generations.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin, how many people are like asking you, like, "Hey, I got this new"? Do you hear that almost like every day? I feel like, like Justin, check this out. I got this new morph. Like, it's new, it's new, it's new, it's new.
You know what I say is I just say, great, man. Well, go out and tell the world and convince them to buy it. And I guess it's, you know, it's 90% marketing and 10% snake. But the reality is people have to see it and they have to believe it. And there's some really cool morphs that didn't get a lot of traction early because they didn't have a cheerleader behind them.
Right.
And then there's some morphs that had all cheerleader and they crashed because there's no substance after a while. Right. So, you know, it's the difference is the person working with them.
And to be fair, like, you know, I feel like if it hits your vlog, it's official. Like if you talk about it, it's kind of like set in stone. But for someone out there to think like, what makes Justin set in stone on a morph where he believes it enough to represent it on his vlog? What does that take?
Well, there's been, you know, for every gene I talk about on my blog, I don't talk about a bunch of them, you know, and it usually comes down to whether or not I think that, I mean, I don't want to be a snake shed salesperson. You know what I'm saying? I want to tell people something and it be legit for years down the road. So like I mostly don't deal in new morphs. I mostly deal in like stuff that in combos, you know, I like an artist. I let other people come up with the paints, but I just use the paints. That's how I kind of think of myself. There's been a few morphs that I've worked with for many, many years. And in the end, I'm like, I'm not sure that you should buy one of these because I just can't find a reason why it's better than 99% of other mutations that are existing that are actually way more powerful. Just because something's new does not mean it's better than the hundreds of morphs we already have that we have infinite combos of already. So
right.
I just don't believe in that whole it's new, so it's valuable thing. If it's new and it's different, you're going to have to go out there and show that it makes something that you really can't do it another way with $100, you know, combos, $100 snakes, $100 mutations. So it's a lot of proving involved. And just saying you have a new mutation is not enough in my mind to be what it used to be, like, you know, automatically tens of thousands of dollars. And that's just not the world we live in. And I think it's probably better that way, honestly.
But are we at a point with any of these genes that have like 3-4 names to where it's getting to where we will just call it one, or is it always going to be the case where it's always going to be 3-4 names because it's kind of the stock that person has, right? So it's kind of like they can't change the name in a sense because it's almost like the enhancer DG thing where it's the same kind of, but it's not, right?
And two in the Blue-Eyed Lucy complex that Dr. Seidel showed, the Butters and Lessers. Well, I guess that's really us. In our testing, Butters and Lessers have been identical, and then Phantoms and Mystics also. So
and then what name do you go to, right? Like who's right? Do you name it, you know, Butter or Lesser?
Justin actually said this to us almost a year ago, and it's kind of what I've stuck to in the very beginning, which is at the end of the day, the name just tells you where that line originated, but it's essentially the same thing. And then
it's respect to the person who spent a lot of years developing that. You know, I think of like the statics and the acids and the confusions. All of them were people who spent, you know, up to a decade of their life developing the project, and I wouldn't want to deprive them of their line being called something. Now, what does happen a lot of is people will tend to kind of will start to call their animals whatever line happens to be most popular.
Right? Yeah, I could even
and you can't help that. That's just
Calico, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Sugar. I mean, I think sugar is cooler, but yeah, everybody's got their opinion, right? And in the end, sometimes the other line will kind of die out because in the end it became a popularity contest. But I just think those things happen organically. As soon as someone's trying to dictate it, it gets messy.
I'm not gonna lie to you, because like when this whole first enhancer GG thing first crossed my like knowledge, I mean, what that was, I was like, who's gonna stop me? Like, let's just say I have 40 fucking enhancers, and I'm like, God damn it, I just put a DG and they all came out looking the same. I'm gonna change this shit to DG. Who's gonna know? No one's gonna fucking know. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's kind of
no one would. And the way Morph had set up, and it's not a knock on them, but they've kind of set it up in a way to it destroys some of the lesser known names, because if I have true pure enhancer line, and I want to sell them, if I put them up as enhancers, they'll go in an enhancer category. But anybody who's searching for Desert Ghost, which is 99% of searches, won't see them.
Yeah.
And so I started putting enhancer, and then I put Desert Ghost in parentheses, just so they would show up on the other search.
Yeah, just so it pops up.
Right, but then I was in violation of their terms of service because I was putting two mutations.
Oh,
of the
Darian,
same
relax, Darian, relax.
Well, it was John, actually. It was pre-Darian. So I was in violation. I'm like, if I have to choose between the gene they are and the gene or the lineage they are and the lineage that 99% of my customers are searching for, I'm going to have to go with Desert Ghost. And so now I'll just put the pairing that it's enhancer. But you know, it just, these things are determined by market forces that are convoluted at best.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to go with their wrap-up question for RGI? Bill or Justin? Don't raise.
Go, Bill.
God, Bill.
Okay. I think my question is actually going to do you guys a favor, because I think it's going to cut off a lot of questions that you would get if I don't ask this one. You've given a little bit of a teaser about Green Tree's sex shed analysis, in that it can be done, but it would be extremely expensive and time consuming. Well, I'm going to tell you that there are a handful of designer pairings that have happened or happening now where people are going to want to know, you know, what kind of money are we talking about? You know, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you told me a lot of the time and effort that goes into it is once you get the male's information, let's say the male relatives information, and you get that down, and then it's just a question of running the baby, you know, sheds, that's a lot less time consuming and would be less money than somebody that just has to submit all that stuff from scratch, right?
Yeah. So I think you know, Shawn, jump in if you think it's good to provide more detail. We've talked about it quite a bit, not necessarily come up with a final decision, but so if we were to start doing this again, there really would be two different things that you would do. So the very first thing, if you're someone that we've never done any green tree python sex determination testing for you, the first thing you would do is pick a pair, and you would do a validation for that pairing. And so you'd send the siren dam, and then you would also need to send a male progenitor or offspring, so paternal grandsire or son. So you'd be sending us at least 3 sheds. So there would be a price for validating a pair. And then you could pay a lesser price to validate another female with that sire, you know, at another time or the same time or whatever. So that's one thing to think about, is the pricing and the time it will take to validate them. And it is possible. It doesn't happen very often, but just ask Ian Bissell. Every once in a while, there is one where I just can't, I can't tell you the pairing. That pairing, I'm blind to any difference in those markers on the sex chromosomes. I just can't tell you. But most of the time it works. So that's why we would want to do that first. So that would be one price, would be validating your pairing. And then there would be another price. Once you have that validated pair, you have to make sure when you send me sheds and you say it's from that pair, if you put 2 males in there, and this actually happened with Bill, he sent some sheds. I was like, these don't match that sire.
Well,
and we figured it out, but
I sent a baby. What happens? I sent a baby from a different pairing because it was like, I went all the way to 19, but then I send you like 22, 20. And so, yes. And that was what was so cool, because you figure it out. You go, one of these sheds is not like the others.
Yes.
No, that was really cool. But yes,
So in that case, the sire markers were different enough. I knew immediately, but sometimes they're fairly similar, but I could end up giving you the wrong results. So some of it's on the person sending, like you got to make sure if you put 2 males in there and there's potentially 2 sires, you got to let us know. And we need to make sure we can tell the 2 sires apart. Most of the time we can, but sometimes we can't. So that's why it's kind of messy. It's complicated, but it is possible to do it.
Okay. Well, it just, I guess, you could put the snuff on everything right now and just say, listen, it's not, don't ask me about it. It's not something that we're prepared to do right now. Don't save your sheds. And expect us, or you can throw out some pricing. Doesn't have to be right now, but
are you comfortable with me sharing what we talked about, Shawn?
Yeah. Before we go there, I mean, Bill, I don't know if you remember, but 5-6 years ago at your house, I said, look, we can sex green trees now. The problem is it's really time consuming. It's really expensive. And if we can't get the pair working, then we can't do any of the sexing at all. Yeah. That's why we didn't go live 5 years ago. We've had colubrid sexing forever, and we've always Ben's done it kind of spare time in the evenings, in his garage or in his snake room. Green Tree was also one of those similar sort of projects that we were toying with until we figured out that we had a real business model. And we were convinced that we could get the single shed test to work, but now it's looking like it may never work. And we, as carpet python guys, you and I, and Ben too, that's how we met. That's how all the green tree testing came to be. Carpet pythons are notoriously difficult to sex. Chondros are a nightmare. And since we can't do the test, we have this little special projects category for things like this that really don't go through the vendors. They're more of a, hey, this is just and we don't really know how we want to price it. We have some ideas. I mean, Ben, you can throw some numbers out there and just see how the hobby accept it. But you have to understand that if you spend the money to validate a pair and we can't validate it, sorry.
Yeah, you've lost your money.
We're doing the best we can do with what we've got. Right?
No, I mean, I think that's fully upfront. Absolutely. People would understand that.
And just from a customer service standpoint, as a business guy, that makes me really nervous. I mean,
it's scary.
We want to do the right thing by our customers, and we just want to be really clear with everybody that when we've been able to validate it and we've been able to sex the babies, they've worked really well. And you're a great person.
I'm a testimony to that. I agree. I'm full in with you guys. But I'm trying to save you guys some time, right?
Yeah. No, we've had the discussion. Ed really wants to do it. I'm hesitant because I don't like letting people down. When we let people down on the first green tree, that was $10,000 in refunds in our first couple of months of operation. But doing the right thing was important enough.
Shawn, we're chondro guys. We're used to put down.
Yeah, you guys are all a little different. You, Patrick, and the whole lot of you're all a little different.
Don't put me in that same category as Patrick.
We are exactly in the same category, just different personalities with the same addiction.
So I would say the cheapest it could be, and it might have to be higher than this.
Yeah, throw it out.
But the cheapest it would be $250 to validate your pairing. So like I said, that's 3 different sheds that you need to send in, and it's going to take a month or two. It's not something that we can do fast. We can't do a fast test for that.
All right.
That's complicated.
No problem. You still got me.
So $250 to validate a pair. It would be another $150 to validate an additional female.
Great.
And then once that's good, and we know, yes, we see markers where we'll be able to sex the offspring from this pairing. Then it'd have to be $100 a shed. Unfortunately, I don't like having to charge.
And this is why years ago I said it's just not feasible. It's too expensive and too time consuming. And
dude, triple your prices, and you still have. I'm not kidding. Triple your prices, and you will have a robust chondro business. I promise you. Triple those prices you just told me.
I keep telling Ben he doesn't value his time enough for things like this. I tell him all the time.
I'm getting comments here. People thought it would be 4 times what you just said.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Don't give up on the chondro business.
Yeah.
I just
when you're good at something, you don't value it enough. You know, what seems like something simple for you is mind blowing for the average person. And we're so thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah.
well,
And
and,
it's one thing about a
part of it's
chondro
also
if it's one thing about a chondro person, they love to spend money. So let's just
part of it's also in my mind. Whenever I had to charge, you know, before we were charging not quite that much, I was like, you know, the whole time I'm thinking we should be able to have a single shed test that only costs, you know, $20 to $30 or something like that.
Right.
Should be able to get it under $50 pretty easily, but now apparently, and I think my brain is still not willing to accept that. I still want to see that paper when it comes out and figure out a way to make it work. But yeah, so I mean, it sounds like that kind of a range would be agreeable. Like I said, that would be the cheapest it would be. It might need to be higher than that, because like Shawn said, I try to make things as cheap as I can, and then Shawn's like, well, you know, we got to think about this and we got to think about that.
At the end of the day, I'm going to challenge him. Okay, do it once and tell me how many hours of your time it actually takes, plus reagents, and let's
But
just.
but you already know that. You should know that already.
Kind of,
but it's
you gotta remember
different
we
now.
did it before. It was a hobby in spare time.
Yeah. Well, and our system's different now. So putting something like that through our system now would be different costs than it was before.
Yeah.
So
He's got to stop working on other stuff to do that. That's the problem.
Something that stood before we get to Justin's wrap-up question, something that just stood out to me. You know, one thing that a lot of people run into when they're trying to get into the chondro game is, you know, they come across an import or something that's labeled something. And I can't tell you how many times something labeled something that it's not, right? But how difficult would it be to, like, you know, test for localities or like, okay, this is for sure sarong, it's not, you know, an aru or whatever the case might be. Is that if we're talking a whole nother beast to tackle when it comes to that?
the biggest problem with a test like that is we have to have a database to compare to. So like when they do forensics right now and they say, oh, this drop, you know, this bit of saliva at the crime scene came from someone that's, you know, blah, blah, blah percent this, that. And, you know, that's because they've sequenced millions of people and know a bunch of information about them. So for us to be able to have a test to show locality in green trees, we would have to have reference samples that we know are correct. And that's not easy. It's not impossible. And there was a group for panther chameleons that some people came with that keep panther chameleons and asked the same thing. I was like, well, you know, it's going to be difficult. But lo and behold, there was some researchers that went through the whole range of panther chameleons and took 350 samples where they have both DNA and they took a picture of the animal. And so I was like, okay, shit, we can do that. So that's one that we'll have this year. We'll have a locality test for panther chameleons. So it's definitely doable. We would just have to figure out if we could talk to either zoos or academic institutions, or if someone could, you know, collect samples, do the sequencing, you know, wherever the animal, the origin of the animal is, which, you know, some of those green trees live in pretty dangerous places. So it'd be difficult, but it is doable.
Right on. What do you got, Justin?
Okay, DGC guys. I've been
great.
We're going back to DG. We got to make this podcast is more viewed than the DG one. So DGC, you guys have run, you know, quite a few of my samples now with DGC, and I've been very impressed with it compared to A and B, in which A and B are somewhat predictable as well. So where are you at with that, and what can we expect as far as nailing it down?
So we're halfway through our free sampling that we're doing. So we've done about 300 and we've got about 300 more to go. So we're still collecting information, but what, you know, maybe isn't too surprising with the free sampling, we have out of each 100, we have 2 or 3 that, you know, don't line up exactly like what we expected. But what I did this last big run, I went back and took, so panels that people paid for panels and gave us information about what their animals were. I took 50 of those where people told us whether they expected the animal to be desert ghost visual or to be a het, or they said, didn't say anything about having DG. So I had 50 of those, and DGC called those correct 100%. It got all of them correct. So, I'm feeling, and Justin, on your end, knowing that you're liking what you're seeing on your end, you certainly run, I think we've run more desert ghosts for you than anyone else. So if it's looking good on your end, that's another, really good, strong, bit of information to say, Desert Ghost C seems to be able to predict, whether you will get a visual if it's a homozygous or you'll get a het if it's het. And it's strong enough now that for the fast testing that we're developing tests for, the first ones we have working is clown and VPI xanthic and then DGC. So we have enough faith in that being the best test, and even being able to get it. I feel like it is right over 99% of the time. So that's really what we're hoping for. No test is ever perfect, and anyone that tells you they have a genetic test that's perfect is definitely inexperienced or lying. But if we can get it over 99%, what's that?
People aren't perfect. So, I've had a handful over all the, almost 2,000 plus tests I've done with you guys. I think most of the mistakes have been mine that we've, when we figure it out, it was just because I wrote the wrong number on the card or something. But
yeah. And we've had a couple on our side too. One of them was me in the Excel sheet. I accidentally shifted something down just 2, and so there's about 6 different samples that all were shifted down too. And so that was stuff happens, but out of all of them that we've run, we haven't had very many problems. But yeah, to answer your question, DGC, I think that once we get through all of the free testing here in a couple of months, I doubt the story's going to change, and DGC will probably become the DG test and for enhancer as well. And it'll just be, one result. And that's why we designed the fast test to be just a DGC test.
Just from a customer service standpoint, because I'm the one answering most of these emails and I get them every day now. And biggest podcast in the world, reptile podcast in the world. So hopefully everybody's listening. If you did a DG test with us, our DGA results are matching C about 98% of the time.
Wow.
So if you got an A result, you're almost certainly correct. Whether it's het or homozygous, you're almost certainly a het or homozygous. Now, if you need to be certain, you're welcome to send the shed in again and send the same order information you had before, and we'll test it for you for free just to be certain. But right now, the A results are looking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but the last number over, the 300 free plus all of the paids that we've checked. So we're talking probably 500 to 600 sheds total now. A's matching about 98% of the time.
But I would say if you know that you have a pairing.
Come on, Ben.
Come on.
Finish strong, buddy.
He's thinking. Thinking. Give him a second.
Oh, sorry. Did I freeze again?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you know that you have hatched out some animals that were negative for DGA but het for DGC, so that 98% is across all of them. But if you know your 2 individuals have produced animals like that, then it's more likely some others, from that pairing or those breeders are a higher percent. It's not like they're also 98%. They're actually a higher probability. So like if you've done some testing and you get a negative A and a positive C, but you have some others from those same breeders, then yeah, like Shawn said, just send the same information where you tested it before for DGA and B, and just put that information on there and just say test DGC please, and we'll get that for you.
Beautiful. What a great freaking podcast. 2 hours went by way too quick. And Shawn, it was such a pleasure to have you finally come and show the face of yours. And
yeah, I like being behind the scenes. Ben's a better face of the company than me.
No, well, I mean, Shawn, what would you like to say? We just had shy of 120 people tapped in tonight. So what would you like to say to anyone who really enjoyed what was said, but just anyone out there rooting for RGI? What do you have to say to all your support and fan base out there?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious is just thank you. I mean, like I said at the very beginning, it's been really cool to watch a lot of the naysayers over this last year go away, and more people come to the front and say, no, look, I did this. It worked for me. And the more we see that, the more it validates what we do. And even like when we do make, some mistakes or we think we have a test figured out and then we have to go back to the drawing board, everybody's been really cool because they understand that although the science isn't new, this particular field is brand new. I mean, the work that Ben's doing and some of the other groups now that we're partnered with is all, no one's ever done this before. There's really not a lot of papers on it. It's all brand new science. And that has a lot to do with just, the love of the hobby and all these people. And the fact that everybody's there to support us. And, by purchasing tests, you're giving us a bigger arm. All we can do is say thanks. We appreciate the work. And if you guys see value in what we're doing, please keep helping us out. We're going to keep doing what we can to bring more tests. We're going to try and bring more species this year. Obviously, we've succeeded in doing some faster tests. All of these improvements are going to keep coming. We're only a year in, guys. And I mean, we've gone from 6 tests and not sure if this was going to work to 30 plus tests, and we can turn them 1,000 in a day, in 1 year. What can we do 5 years from now? And that's just with all y'all support. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Right on. What you got, Ben?
Nothing much to add to that. Just, many thanks for people that have sent sheds in, people that have said hi at shows. I have, my family can attest. I have many nights where I'm working till 3 or 4 in the morning or whatever. And the support from people is what keeps me going, keeps me excited about this. And it's awesome to be able to hear the stories and, hear Bill that, those sex determination tests have been perfect. I love hearing that. And
100%, man.
All of those things really do sincerely make a difference to me in my personal life. And then for us to be able to keep doing what we're doing, we have to have people that appreciate what we're doing and support us. And we've loved seeing that there's lots of excitement and support there for us.
Right on, man. And me and Shawn talked about this briefly, but 2024 does have a lot of RGI and Trap Talk episodes in store just to keep everyone updated. And,
nice.
It's going to be something epic for everyone out there. And I just want to say thank you two. Thank you so much for supporting what I have going on, but more importantly, just making the hobby fun. This is interesting. Turning people into geeks that didn't even know they were geeks, and I just feel like this is all great, all positive. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. But guys, do me a favor, go follow and subscribe RGI Rare Genetic Inc. on YouTube, because every Wednesday, is that right, Ben? Every Wednesday you have a
most of the time it's Tuesdays. This week was Wednesday because I was getting a big run on. So most of the time Tuesdays, sometimes Wednesdays.
Got it. All right. Well, all the link to how to follow them is in the description below, so please do. But it's a wrap. Give it up for RGI, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Hey, just so you know, Bill normally doesn't clap, so he just clapped. This is great news right now. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey, have a good night, guys. Thank you. All right, what a great episode, man. What do you guys think?
Are we live? Are we still live?
Yes, Bill, we are still live, Bill.
Good.
How about now?
Good enough.
We've got to tell the Justin to that inside joke, by the way, because I don't think he knows what you did.
Let's just skip it.
Okay, but bro, I want to hear from you first, Bill. What do you feel like you got enough answers to a lot of questions being asked throughout the year?
Well, I thought it was incredible. I knew it was going to be a great episode. I thought one of the cool things, MJ, when you kind of announced who was going to be on, I thought it was awesome because not only because Justin and I consider ourselves good friends, but there's some crossover between us as far as we both have been keeping reptiles a long time, and we both keep ball pythons and green trees and Morelia. And so I thought it was cool to have us both on here and both, get different perspectives on RGI from the ball python and the green tree perspective. And the other thing that I thought that they said several times is they had naysayers. Like, people kept questioning like their results. And anybody that knows Benson Morrill knows how freaking smart that guy is.
Super smart.
To have any, like, who would question him on reptile genetics? I just want to know who that person or persons would be that would ever like say, wow, he kept saying naysayers. We had all these naysayers. Who are those stupid fuckers?
Probably the same fat tire kickers on Morph Market.
Now, Justin does get that one.
I got that one.
I thought it was a great episode. And MJ, again, I told you up front, man, you've been bringing the heat lately. You've been your programming, I think, and I know I'm a homer, but really stepped up really in the last several months or 6 months. Just everything is becoming next level. I don't know if more professional is the right word, but
Thanks,
just
Bill.
your topics, your questions, your guests have just been so on point. I'm so proud of you, man.
Thank you. That means a lot. And honestly, man, I didn't know that connection between you and Shawn, and that happened by accident. But God damn it, coolest reptile podcast in the world. That those accidents happen a lot. You know what I mean? So,
For sure.
And I love it. I love that you were here for it, and I just knew in my heart I needed you to be a part of this. But Justin also, Justin, huge piece of what is influenced in ball pythons. Period. And honestly, you made the RGI excitement is what it was because how close you were believing in them and working with them. But what would you have to say your overall feelings about tonight's episode and what you feel like 2024 has in store for RGI?
Yeah, I'm super excited about shed testing and just where it's taking us. I think it's all positive. It's a missing piece that came in at the right time with the right people. And yeah, it's a great episode to kind of bring it all together. And yeah, I don't know what these naysayers are, but I think a lot of people are just thinking that, oh, we're just going to keep doing it the way we were always doing it. And I mean, it's the same people who want to do it the old-fashioned way, But in the end, it's disruption, right? There's disruptors in our industry, and this is a big one, and it's a really important one. I think it's a really positive. And in the end, it's going to make everybody stronger. Everybody have a tighter collection. To keep the exact animals they want, and it pushes some of the crappy people out of this industry a little bit, and that's not a bad thing. So, but yeah, thanks again, MJ, for bringing us all together. Though, what a great time.
Hey, but you want to know something about crappy people that's not that crappy? Is as long as you don't entertain them. I think if you don't entertain what's crappy, I don't think you really affects what you have going on. I think only when you kind of look like when you partake in what people are being crappy about, that's when it kind of affects you. But I mean, Justin, I always feel like you are really good at just not partaking in anything that's like shit talk.
I'm getting isolated. It's good and bad. I get to where people are like, oh, did you hear what so-and-so said about you? I'm like,
nope,
no, I didn't actually. I kind of want to know. I mean, I kind of, I get involved in the drama a little bit, but I miss most of it these days. Because most of it kind of goes on, behind the scenes, and I'm not there wherever. And but the reality is that there's always going to be a little bit of that. And in the end, we're protecting the new people who come in, not from bad talk, but from really crappy animals being sold and purposeful misidentification, and I've heard of that. So anytime there's consumer protection that's kind of naturally created in the market, and we all win. And it's really good.
Yep. So. Awesome stuff, guys. I appreciate you both. And first and foremost, have a goddamn Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Enjoy your holiday. I don't think we'll have a podcast until Tuesday, which, hey, everyone give it up for Bill. He gets next week off. All right, Bill. No podcast next week. He well deserved for sure. But guys, do me a favor, please. I mean, not that I have to tell you to follow Justin Kobylka or Bill Stegall, but do me a favor if you're not. Head over to Instagram, follow Canova on Instagram and YouTube. Join his Patreon, and same with Bill, man. Phoenix Reptiles on Instagram, not YouTube, because he ain't got time for that shit, but he's definitely on Instagram.
I do have a YouTube channel. I only have
what was your last video posted? Tell me.
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure. Last time I had a GT Keeper radio episode.
I guarantee YouTube is like asking you, are you still here? Like, hello. No, but seriously, guys, please support them. And again, thank you so much, Justin and Bill. But give it up for these two guys, ladies and gentlemen, please. All right, have a good night, guys.
Thanks for all
Merry
the
Christmas.
watchers.
Appreciate you guys.
See you
Have a
guys.
good one. Later.
See you guys.
Woo! Great episode, guys. Appreciate it. 2.5 hours in the books on such an amazing podcast. Really excited for 2024. Mainly because look what's in store. A lot of great things, a lot of excitement, a lot of things to geek out over. All right. So if you geeked out over tonight's podcast like I did, if you really enjoyed it, and if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please, my goal is to hit 10,000 subscribers. I'm right there. I'm right there. Help your boy. Hit that subscribe button. And then if you really enjoyed tonight's episode, hit that notification bell, select all. You'll be on all 3 of my podcasts as I drop here every single week. I do not miss. I will say next Monday, Christmas, my favorite holiday. No Trap Talk on Christmas. But following day, right back at it. All right. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, happy holidays to every single one of you. Even people who aren't as like fortunate to be with like loved ones or like anything. I just want to say, please enjoy what you have. Make the best of it. And you know, if you're not having too good of a year this year, there's always next year. Just stay positive. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, like things always do get better. So hang in there. All right. And for anyone who's blessed enough to be around family, enjoy that family time, hug your family, be happy and enjoy life. And thank you so much for being here. Have a good night. All right. I'll catch you guys here Tuesday for All Up in the Tree Tuesday, but that's a wrap. Episode 428 in the books. Have a good night and Merry Christmas.